Chapter 13:18. While they were talking, Odin glanced thoughtfully at the clothes the leveling Heaven's Sword Emperor and Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor were wearing. Guhan immediately reacted and took out a set of clothes from the dimensional pocket and handed it to Odin without a word. Odin thanked him and put on the clothes happily. Odin, who had put on the clothes, suddenly walked in front of Wu Zetian, who was in the process of resurrecting. With a wave of his hands, the sword energy that Liuan Ling had set up disappeared without a trace. At this time, Wu Zetian was in the same state as Odin just now. At this time, Wu Zetian was not the image of an 80-year-old woman when she died, but a 30-year-old woman in the prime of her life. Her skin was as smooth as the moon, and her figure was perfect to the extreme, especially the pair of opium pies. It cannot be said to be very big, but it could not be said to be very small either. It was the size that could be held in one hand. This was also the size that men were most obsessed with and admired. Furthermore, Wu Zetian's appearance was just like her original name, Maiden. She was extremely charming. Guhan had seen her with his own eyes, and he had seen her in pictures, but there was not a single person who could be as charming as Wu Zetian. No wonder she was able to confuse Li Shimin and Li Ji, and finally become the legendary empress of a generation to replace the Tang dynasty. So beautiful, my queen! Odin could not help but exclaim in admiration. Pervert, Liuan Ling muttered. Then, Liuan Ling quickly found a set of her own clothes and put them on Wu Zetian's exposed upper body to prevent this spring scenery from being exposed again. What a pity! What a pity! Seeing Wu Zetian put on her clothes again, Odin said regretfully. After waiting for about half an hour, Wu Zetian finally finished growing. She opened her eyes and walked out of the grave mound. Who put these clothes on me? Wu Zetian asked as soon as she woke up. It's me, Sister Maiden, Liuan Ling said excitedly. She seemed to have forgotten one thing. This was not reality, but a game dungeon. Her big sister Wu Maiden did not recognize her at all. Get lost. Wu Zetian pushed out with a single hand, and Liuan Ling flew out without any resistance. If it wasn't for Ping Tian Jindi and Qi Tian Jindi's quick reactions, catching Liuan Ling in midair, Liuan Ling would have been smashed out of the underground palace. Your Majesty, Great Sage Emperor Zetian, it's not appropriate for you to bully a junior like this. Heaven's Equal Jindi said with slight dissatisfaction after helping Liuan Ling up. Who wants her to dress us? My dragon body is a gift from the heavens. There is no need to hide it. Wu Zetian snorted coldly, and Liuan Ling's clothes exploded by themselves. Wu Zetian returned to her naked state. However, unlike Heaven's Equal Jindi and Ping Tian Jindi, Wu Zetian did not seem to want to find clothes to wear. Instead, she wantonly displayed her perfect body in front of everyone, without any intention of hiding it. Your Majesty, 800 years have passed, and you still haven't changed at all. Odin smiled as he moved closer to Wu Zetian. At the same time, he put his hand on Wu Zetian's waist without any hesitation. Did I allow you to touch me? Wu Zetian's expression changed drastically, and she glared at Odin fiercely, scaring him so much that he quickly retracted his hand. Did I allow you to let go again? Wu Zetian's expression changed again. She then grabbed Odin's hand and placed it on her waist again. She touched Odin's white and tender face and smiled. Let's not be in a hurry. Tonight, I will spend the night with you. Thank you, Your Majesty, Odin said with a look of surprise. This character, seeing the scene in front of him, the Guhanbu, was speechless. Odin was the godly king of the Norse god system, while Wu Zetian was the Empress of China. How could the two of them be so shameless? It was as if they were an adulterous couple obsessed with the pleasures of the flesh. How could Sister Maiden be like this? She is not that kind of person, Liuan Ling said in an even more dazed manner. Miss Ling, don't mind her. Wu Zetian is just like this. We are already used to it. Heaven's Equal Jindi patted Liuan Ling's shoulder. Yes, in Wu Zetian's eyes, this world is different from ours. Ping Tian's Jindi continued to explain. Wu Zetian is a woman who was once an empress. She has 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. She also has a group of handsome male pets. With her status, she doesn't need to cover her body at all. For her, men are just playthings. She only needs to live in the state that she feels the most pleasurable. Even if this state is naked, she can copulate with any man she likes at any time. As for this Odin, I could not see through him 800 years ago, and I still can't see through him 800 years later. On the surface, he looks like an empress, but in reality, no one knows what he is thinking. Ping Tion's Jindi said to Gahan, Ping Tion's grandson, also my heaven's equal grandson, long time no see. Did you miss great-grandmother? While they were talking about Wu Zetian took large strides and walked over to Guhan. Seeing Wu Zetian walk over, even though Ping Tian and Qi Tian were two Jindis, they could not help but look afraid. Only Qi Tian's Jindi forced himself to pull himself together and said, Great sage Emperor Zetian, if you make such a joke, don't bother about us. What joke? Did I say something wrong? Wu Zetian laughed as she said, Not to mention the fact that I'm thousands of years older than you two. When you were first sent to my place, it was I who raised you too. You two are like my grandchildren. Don't you remember your granny's kindness? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands reached into Heaven's equal sword emperors and Heaven's equal sword emperors' clothes without any concealment. She groped around their chests. Do the two of you think you're so capable that you can disregard great-grandmother? Great sage Emperor Zetian. All right, great-grandmother. If you really think you're our great-grandmother, then please let us go for the sake of great-grandmother status. There are outsiders here. Ping Tian looked like he was about to cry because of Wu Zetian's touch. What a joke. When you two were having sex with great-grandmother, why didn't you say that there were outsiders with great-grandmother? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands moved from the two sword emperors' upper bodies to their lower bodies. She reached into their pants and rubbed something. Ping Tian and Qi Tian, the two sword emperors, had awkward and sour expressions on their faces. At the same time, there was a lot of shame and anger. It seemed like their relationship with Wu Zetian was very complicated. Enough! Great sage Emperor Zetian. The Heaven's equal sword emperor had the fiercest temper. He slapped Wu Zetian's hand away and said with a cold expression, Please show some respect. Otherwise, don't blame me for ignoring the kindness of raising you all those years ago. That's right, great sage Emperor Zetian. Don't force and humiliate us too much. Ping Tian's Jindi also pushed Wu Zetian's hand away. Sigh, the children have grown up. They don't listen to their grandmother anymore. Wu Zetian sighed. She did not force the two Jindis anymore. Liu Yinling had already run away, with Lu Shihuan the face of this wonderful performance. Only Gahan stood there calmly. Brother military governor. These are all old things. I'm really ashamed. Ping Tian's Jindi said to Gahan awkwardly. As for what the old things were, the two Jindis kept their mouths shut. Actually, even if the two Jindis didn't say anything, Gahan could guess a lot of things from their conversation. It seemed like after Yinjing City was destroyed, Drifting Goblet's Jindi had sent some of the human geniuses and sword ladies to Wu Zetian. After all, only Wu Zetian had the ability to protect the remaining human forces. While the romantic Wu Zetian protected the remaining human forces, she also played a game of grooming and training them. The two sword emperors, Heaven's equal and Heaven's equal, were probably the two playthings that Wu Zetian had groomed when she was young. It was probably at that time that the titles of great-grandmother and great-grandson appeared. It was just that these two playthings had extraordinary talent, and in the end they actually became emperor sword wielders. At this time, the two sword emperors were no longer willing to talk about the humiliating period of time that they had spent as a man. Oh, I didn't notice that there's a handsome grandson here. Seeing that she couldn't take advantage of Ping Tian's and Jiandi's, Wu Zetian turned her attention to Gahan. She looked at Guhan's body from head to toe and wanted to grope Gahan's chest, just like how she did to the two Jiandis. You want to F***CK me? Guhan grabbed Wu Zetian's hand that was about to reach his chest and reached out with his other hand without hesitation. He grabbed the beauty's small pair. TSK. My grandson has guts, unlike these two who don't even have the guts to do anything. Wu Zetian smiled. Come on, touch me if you like. I like your hand. That's right. It's not fair for you to enjoy it alone. I want to enjoy it as well. After speaking, Wu Zetian reached out to grab Gohan's lower body. It's easy if you want to have sex with me. However, Your Majesty, you need to get someone's permission first. Gohan blocked Wu Zetian's hand for the second time and said with a smile, Who is it? Do I need her permission to like anyone? Wu Zetian said unhappily, Oh, she's my wife. Her name is I Ching. She's right there. Gohan pointed at the place that was covered by his sword energy whirlpool. What? Wu Zetian was shocked. She rushed into the sword energy whirlpool without hesitation. After a while, she walked out with a pale face. She didn't dare to look at Gohan anymore. She didn't want to offend that scary woman, I Ching. Chapter 1319. All right, now that all of you have been resurrected, let's sit down and discuss how to destroy Heaven Court and take revenge. Liu Ban walked to the middle of the 6 great sages and said, With the resurrection of the 6 great sages, the scene became very chaotic and terrible for a time. However, the old man Liu Ban was unexpectedly influential among the 6 great sages. When he finished speaking, the 6 great sages quieted down very respectfully. They each found a seat and sat down. It seemed that they were going to have a meeting. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 6 completed. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 7 generated. Please convince the 6 great sages to reach an agreement. As such a quest prompt rang in Gohan's ears, Gohan knew that it was almost impossible to count on the resurrected 6 great sages spontaneously working together to attack Heaven Court. Sure enough, although Liu Ban still had the ability to get the 6 great sages to sit down for a meeting, when they really started to discuss, a huge difference of opinion emerged. Almost half of the great sages did not intend to risk their lives to attack Heaven Court after being resurrected. The one who objected the most was Wu Zetian. She coldly smiled and said that she had attacked the Heavenly Court back then because her head had been smashed by a hammer. She now understood that attacking the Heavenly Court would only lead to death. She wanted to enjoy her life and would not foolishly fight the Heavenly Court to the death. Wu Zetian's expression changed. Odin agreed with this. Just now, he walked around the remaining Yuan Ko, but did not find a Yuan Ko belonging to the Norse pantheon. Through questioning, he learned that the entire Norse pantheon Yuan Ko was basically dead. Even if there were 1 or 2 kittens and puppies left, no one knew where they were hiding. Odin was disheartened by this result. Since there was no more Yuan Ko in his pantheon, there was no need for him to fight for any living space for them. As long as he tried his best to hide, the people of Heaven Court would not be able to find them. Odin and Wu Zetian were the 2 most powerful among the 6 great sages present. When the 2 of them expressed their opposition in unison, they occupied almost half of the power of the 6 great sages. Moreover, the Adel King quickly said that the justice and life on this planet had completely withered. He wanted to return to Nebula M78. Seeing such a one-sided situation, the 2 Sword Emperors, Ping Tian and Chi Tian, could not help but fall into deep thought. In the beginning, they had supported launching another attack on the Heavenly Court. However, when they saw how fearful the great sages were, especially the extremely powerful Wu Zetian and Odin, who did not wish to continue fighting, the 2 Sword Emperors began to hesitate. Perhaps bringing the remnants of the human race to a small place to develop again was the right way to go. Among the 6 great sages, 5 of them had the idea of giving up. Only Orochi was clamoring to take revenge on the Heavenly Court. It was worthy of being a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, this made things very troublesome. 5 of the 6 great sages did not want to take revenge. They only wanted to drag out an ignoble existence. Why would Gohan resurrect these great sages? Without the help of these great sages, how could they defeat the 5 desolate-level Yuan bandits of the Heavenly Court just by relying on the power of freezing? Gohan recalled the contents of the strategy guide. It was indeed written in the strategy guide that the 6 great sages were unwilling to fight back against the Heavenly Court after they were resurrected. Hence, The players needed the strategy guide for each great sage to help them fulfill their regrets in their previous lives and increase their favorability. When the favorability reached 100, these great sages who were unwilling to fight back against the heavenly court would change their minds because of the player's personal charm. This was a very common trick in game dungeons. Regardless of the era and the game, there were countless players who worked tirelessly to complete some affinity quests in order to improve their affinity with a certain NPC. This was also the quest link with the most number of quests among the 200 quests. There were more than 80 quests. Gohan estimated that if he really followed the strategy guide to improve the affinity of these 6 great sages, he would not be able to complete so many quests even if he was given another month. Gohan looked at the time. At this time, there were only 27 hours left in a week. Once 27 hours passed, the human souls in this dungeon would begin to dissipate due to excessive consumption. Although Gohan did not care about these human souls, Song Hamasol was among them after all. Gohan could not watch his brother die just like that. Obviously, it was no longer possible to farm affinity according to the official orthodox strategy. Gohan had to find another way to force these great sages to participate in the crusade against Heaven Court in a short period of time. Anyway, this dungeon itself had already fallen into extreme chaos. Completely breaking away from a normal quest path of the system was the right way. The best way was to find a strong opponent to suppress these 6 great gods who were terrified. If Gohan had an Emperor sword-level sword wielder, no, as long as he could have the level of an immortal sword-level sword wielder, then Gohan would have the confidence to suppress everyone. However, the problem was that Gohan was only a spirit sword-level sword wielder, so he needed the help of another person. It's just that I Ching has only grown by half. Gohan thought with some distress in his heart. I Ching's upper body had just grown, and it would take at least 5 or 6 hours for her whole body to be fully resurrected. By that time, these great sages would have already gone home. Thinking of this, Gohan got up silently, whispered a few words in Liu Ban's ear, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Since everyone's opinions are similar, then let's just disperse. When everyone's strength is stronger in the future, then we can think about revenge. Odin finally concluded. Of course, this was just a beautiful sentence. Among the 6 great sages present, except for Orochi, who was too stupid, the other great sages were afraid of the heavenly court. As long as their lives were not in danger, they would not have the thought of seeking revenge on the heavenly court. This sentence was just to give himself a way out of this embarrassing situation. After all, it was a very shameful thing to flee in fear of the divine might of the heavenly court after his resurrection. Hearing Odin's words, the other great sages also nodded, got up one after another, opened the void, and prepared to flee for their lives. Ahem! Liu Ban could not help but cough and say, "Dear great sages, are you going to abandon us poor people like this? Great sages, are you going to abandon us?" Liu Ban was stunned. "Lord Liu Ban, what do you mean?" Odin asked in reply. "These juniors risked their lives and paid a heavy price to revive the 6 of you. Even if they didn't make any contributions, their hard work should be more than enough." Liu Ban said with grief and indignation. "Why do these juniors do this? Isn't it because they have had enough of Heaven Court's persecution and want to rely on the strength of all of you to win a free and safe future? The result of these juniors risking their lives is that you 6 lords are cowering here, running for your lives, and only caring about yourselves? Then why did these juniors resurrect you? Lord Liu Ban, you can't say that." Hearing Liu Ban's words, apart from Orochi and Wu Zetian, the other 4 people could not help but feel a little embarrassed. If we were strong enough, we would also want to take revenge on Heaven Court. But aren't we not strong enough? Besides, it's not that we don't want to take revenge. When the 6 of us are stronger, when we have a few more desolate level helpers, it won't be too late for us to take action. As the saying goes, plan before taking action. We can't be reckless. Odin explained with a serious face. "Good. You all make sense. You're all right." Liu Ban snorted coldly. "But there is something I forgot to tell you. The reason you were able to resurrect was because of the help of the 3 connate items. However, the amount of Tai water was not enough. The peach tree of immortality is not fully grown yet. At most, in 2 or 3 years, your bodies will rapidly age and weaken. When that time comes, I'm afraid you won't even be able to open the void gate. What? The great sages were shocked. The void gate that was originally opened closed again. They quickly rushed to Lu Ban's side and asked sternly, Lord Lu Ban, is what you said true? You can't lie to us. Why would I lie to you? Lu Ban sneered. If you don't believe me, whether it's sword essence, immortal power, divine power, or telekinesis, you can all circulate your power. See if it's very dry when it flows through your meridians, as if it's flowing through sand. This is because the amount of Tai water is not enough, and your meridians are not fully developed yet. That's why it's like this. The 6 great sages did not say anything. They immediately closed their eyes and began to feel their bodies. As a result, their faces all turned purple. The truth was just as Lu Ban had said. Their meridians were indeed very dry. Under normal circumstances, they could not feel it, but when their power circulated quickly, it was very obvious. Old man Lu Ban, is there any way to solve this problem? These great sages had finally been resurrected. How could they be willing to change back? Especially Wu Zetian, who grabbed Lu Ban's collar and asked, Don't worry, there's still a way. Lu Ban smiled and pushed Wu Zetian's hand away, saying, Since there isn't enough Tai water, we'll just have to replenish it. Lu Ban took out a bottle of Tai water from his body. While your 9-yang true fire is not extinguished, pour this bottle of Tai water on your bodies, and then train in the fire for a few hours. Let your bodies grow a little, and there will be no problem. Chapter 13:20. All right. Wu Zetian did not say anything else. She grabbed a bottle of Tai water and prepared to return her grave mound to smell it again. Wait, there's something strange here. Odin sensed that something was wrong and pressed his hand on Wu Zetian's shoulder. Nothing strange? Don't make a fuss. Odal King said disdainfully. Oomph. Don't you think that Lord Lu Ban's bottle of Tai water is too simple and easy to give? Odin squinted his eyes and said. His words instantly enlightened the other 6 great sages. Lu Ban's Tai water was indeed too easily given. There was no hesitation or exchange at all. He just handed it right in front of them. If it had been an hour ago, this would not have been strange. After all, Lu Ban had gone through a lot of trouble to resurrect the 6 of them. There was full trust and affection between the 2 sides. But now it was different. The 6 of them did not want to be enemies with the heavenly court, so Lu Ban was obviously unhappy. Under such circumstances, if the other party handed over the Tai water so easily, he would be too stupid. Odin frowned at Lu Ban and added, Old Master Lu Ban, isn't this a little too strange? If what you said is true, then why didn't you give us enough Tai water from the beginning? Why did you torture us like this? I have some understanding of the 6 of you, and I can guess what you will do after your resurrection. So, because of your fear of the heavenly court, you don't want to help these poor juniors. I can guess that too. Lu Ban's words made the 6 great sages blush. They did not expect Lu Ban to see through them. If that's the case, why did Master Lu Ban resurrect the 6 of us? Odin asked again, because if we want to obtain true freedom, we cannot do without the 6 of you. Lu Ban said calmly. So, I only added half of the Tai water to you. How about it? You won't blame me, right? That's right. This bottle of Tai water is only enough for one of you. If the 6 of you want to share it, it's not enough. The expressions of the 6 great sages were a little strange. They had already cursed Lu Ban in their hearts, but they couldn't do it. Who asked Lu Ban to resurrect them? With this kindness, they were too embarrassed to scold Lu Ban. I know you're all cursing me in your hearts, but I don't care. I just want to make a deal with you. As long as you agree to my deal, I'll give you the rest of the supreme life water. Lu Ban said, Lord Lu Ban, please speak. Odin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Lu Ban's words. Using the Tai water in exchange for their compromise was a normal situation. It seemed that this matter was most likely true. Lu Ban was indeed a cunning old fox. But old man Lu Ban, let's make this clear first. If you want us to run to the heavenly court and die, then there's no need for this deal. Wu Zetian snorted coldly. Don't worry, I know you're all cowards. I don't expect you to have much courage. Lu Ban sneered. I only have one thing to ask of you. I hope you can take the juniors in this underground palace with you when you escape. Give them temporary safety. Now that the heavenly court knows that your souls have all been freed from the place of suppression, I'm afraid that the Jade Emperor has also guessed the fact that you have been resurrected. He may not attack you, but he will definitely take cruel revenge on us juniors. This place is no longer safe, and I'm afraid our other strongholds are no longer safe either. Therefore, I hope that you can take away a portion of these juniors and protect them. I'll be satisfied if they are safe. Lu Ban's face was full of sorrow when he said that. I agree. I have no objections. I agree too. Heavens equal Jindi and heavens equal Jindi said at the same time. They were the most grateful among the 6 great sages. So, after hearing Lu Ban's request, they immediately agreed without hesitation. I agree too. Odin agreed immediately. At the same time, the idea of rebuilding the Norse god system was gradually born in Odin's mind. He could choose some of these Yuan Ko guys with great potential and bring them back. Then, he could train them, brainwash them, and mate with them. Maybe he could recreate the Norse god system. Yes, Wu Zetian nodded. I also lack some eunuchs and maids to serve me. Although these guys are filthy, I can barely use them. With the approval of these 4, even if Ultron King and Orochi were a little reluctant, they could not go against Lu Ban's wishes. Anyway, they were not going to risk their lives to protect them. If necessary, they could just leave them behind and escape. The most important thing now was to get the water of Tai from Lu Ban. Seeing that the 6 great sages agreed, Lu Ban showed a satisfied smile and took out 6 bottles of water of Tai. This time, Odin and the others did not doubt him again. They each took a bottle of water of Tai and rushed into the 9-yang real fire that had not yet extinguished. They began to refine their bodies. Master Lu Ban, how long do we need to refine our bodies? Odin suddenly asked. You can only come down when I tell you to. Lu Ban said lightly. The 6 great sages quieted down again. How could these bastards do this? We respected them so much and tried our best to help them resurrect. In the end, they ended up like this. Seeing that the 6 great sages had begun to refine their bodies, Artoria, who was full of resentment, walked to Lu Ban's side and said unwillingly, what had just happened was a big blow to Artoria. She never thought that these ancestors, who had been rumored for 800 years, would end up with such a hateful face. Calm down, Artoria. All creatures are born with this face. There's nothing strange about it. Lu Ban said calmly, but I can't accept it. Even if I saved a dog, it's still better than saving these 6 bastards. Artoria said bitterly, Master Lu Ban, with all due respect, you shouldn't have given them the remaining precious water of Tai. You let them escape and end up as useless trash. We don't need their protection. We can protect ourselves. Silly child. Lu Ban stroked Artoria's hogue and smiled. You were the one who brought the Tai water here, and you saw it being used with your own eyes. Didn't you notice that something was wrong with it? Artoria froze for a moment and began to recall all the details. Her expression instantly froze, and she said hesitantly, Master, why do I feel that all the water of Tai I got has been used up? There's no extra. Of course there's no extra. Lu Ban laughed and whispered, in order to resurrect the 6 of them, I've already used up all the water of Tai. How can it be a second water of Tai? Then the 6 bottles just now, those 6 bottles are just plain water. They're not water of Tai. Fortunately, the water of Tai looks exactly the same as plain water, so they won't notice anything wrong. Lu Ban did not dare to laugh. He could only laugh softly, his eyes narrowing into a straight line. Then, Master, you must have lied to them. Of course, their bodies are made of peach wood, and peach wood is essentially just a piece of wood. When the meridians are made of wood, it's only natural for them to feel a little jerky. These guys are great sages, but in the end, they're just fools. They're being played around by me. Lu Ban laughed even more happily. Master, you're so bad. Artoria was also amused by Lu Ban, but after laughing, her face became worried again. My lord, you fooled them by doing this, but it's of no practical use. When they come down from the burial mound and find that the meridian has not changed, they will not let you go. It's okay. What I'm doing is just buying time for someone. Lu Ban sighed and looked at the place where Gahan's sword energy was circling. I won't lie to you. The idea just now was not thought of by me, but by the military governor. The military governor told me that as long as I can find a way to delay him for 5 or 6 hours, when the 7th great sage is resurrected, he will have a way to change the whole situation. Master, how can you trust someone like him? He and the 7th great sage are clearly a couple. Artoria immediately said with dissatisfaction. I don't care what the relationship between the two of them is. I believe him, and that's enough. Lu Ban said domineeringly. Why do I feel that something is wrong? After an unknown amount of time, Odin, who had been immersed in the 9-yang true fire all this time, was the first to discover that something was wrong. Apart from being half dead from the heat, his meridians didn't feel any changes. They were still as jerky as before. Master Lu Ban, why are my meridians? There's nothing strange about it. Only at the moment when the water of supreme life is completely integrated into your body will the feeling of your meridians return to normal. You just have to wait patiently, Lu Ban said faintly. It did not sound strange at all. Odin reluctantly believed Lu Ban's words. But as time went by, the other great sages gradually felt that something was wrong, especially Orochi. This cold-blooded animal was most afraid of fire. After staying in the 9-yang true fire for a long time, he had almost been burned to a piece of snakeskin. You're lying to us. This bottle is only filled with water. Orochi could not help but jump out of the fire. He grabbed the bottle he had just discarded and swallowed it whole. Only then did he realize that the bottle was just a bottle of water. Hearing Orochi's words, all the great sages jumped out angrily and looked at Lu Ban angrily. Artoria was so scared that she hurriedly stood in front of Lu Ban. The whole situation was on the verge of exploding. Chapter 13:21. Master Lu Ban, we respect you and thank you for saving us. But why did you lie to us? Odin stood up and asked with a smile. However, there was a chill in his smile. Lu Ban and Artoria could not help but feel a little afraid. I didn't lie to you. Lu Ban spread his hands and said with a wry smile, someone asked me to lie to you. Who? Who dares to do this? I will swallow his head alive. Orochi roared angrily. It's me. Orochi did not expect a voice to reply to him from behind. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw Gohan leisurely walking out of the sword chi whirlpool. He looked at the 6 great sages coldly. Brother military governor, you can't just say things like that. Ping Tian Jindi and Chi Tian Jindi immediately said nervously when they saw Gohan appear. They were a little angry at the person who lied to them. However, when they saw Gohan taking the initiative to admit it, they became very nervous. Gohan was one of the most promising descendants of the human race. They absolutely did not want to see anything happen to Gohan. Now that Gohan took the initiative to admit that he lied to everyone, it was equivalent to taking all the blame on himself. He would instantly become the target of public criticism. Once the other 4 great sages wanted to kill Gohan, Ping Tian and Chi Tian would have no choice but to escape with Gohan. I didn't say anything. I did ask Senior Lu Ban to do this, Gohan said with a smile. Ping Tian and Chi Tian could only shake their heads with a wry smile. They had no idea what this little brother of theirs was trying to do. Very well, since you have admitted it, then pay the price. Orochi had long been unhappy with Gohan because of his previous obstruction. At that time, if Ping Tian Jindi and Chi Tian Jindi had not come out, Orochi would have probably killed Gohan. Now that Gohan had jumped out and angered everyone, Orochi would not let go of such a good opportunity. Countless tentacles stretched out, ready to crush Gohan alive. Orochi don't. Ping Tian Jindi and Chi Tian Jindi jumped out again to stop Orochi. Chi Tian, Ping Tian, don't go too far. This person dared to trick us. Is it wrong for me to kill him? Orochi turned his eyes to Odin and the other great sages, hoping to get their support. Wait. Odin motioned for Orochi to calm down and turned to Guhan. I'm curious. Why did you ask Senior Liu Ban to do this? What's in it for you? I don't have any other thoughts. I just hope that you can stay behind and follow me to attack the heavenly court. Guhan said straightforwardly. Oh, the idea is good, but the action is wrong. Odin smiled and said. Odin laughed. If you wish for us to sweep through the heavenly court, then you should kneel before us and work hard to please us. Perhaps if our hearts soften, we will accompany you to sweep through the heavenly court. Do you think we will help a liar if you don't lie to us like you're doing now? Does Lord Odin think this is a clumsy lie? Guhan laughed coldly. If this is a clumsy lie, then why did the 6 of you obediently run to the bonfire to warm yourselves? All the great sages were embarrassed when they heard Guhan's words. Then they became angry. This Guhan had actually slapped them in the face. Even Ping Tian and Chi Tian were angry at Guhan. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person's hands? Guhan's face was filled with rage. Even Ping Tian and Chi Tian were furious at him. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person? By the way, you also said that I am a liar. Guhan looked like he had seen a very funny joke. Who is the liar? Who deceived these poor descendants to do everything possible to resurrect himself? But when it was time to fulfill his promise, he ran away like a pig. This is the biggest liar, deceiving these pitiful people for a full 800 years. Orochi's face was stubborn and red. He was embarrassed and annoyed. He could no longer calm down after being poked by Guhan. Countless tentacles grabbed at Guhan like lightning. Disgusting thing. Guhan snorted coldly. He turned the Zhu Xian sword in his hand and mobilized the rule power at the same time. These tentacles fell to the ground like loaches in front of Guhan. In the blink of an eye, all of them were cut off by Guhan. Orochi let out a cry of pain. These tentacles being cut off was actually not a very serious injury for Orochi. At most, it was to the extent of breaking the skin. However, the sharp pain of the tentacles being cut off made Orochi feel extreme pain. I must kill you. Orochi's flower slash. Orochi's tentacles began to recover quickly. The tentacles that were cut off grew again. Then, these tentacles merged with each other and soon evolved into hundreds of 40-meter-long broadswords. He can actually force Orochi to use his true strength. Seeing Orochi use Orochi's flower slash, Odin could not help but say in surprise. Orochi generally would not use this move unless it was in a battle of the same level. The reason was very simple. If it had to use such a move against an opponent of a lower level, then it would be too embarrassing for Orochi. But now, Orochi disregarded the fact that the opponent was a spirit sword level swordbearer and directly used Orochi's flower slash. Could it be that the strength of this human had reached the point where Orochi had to use its true strength, which was Yuan Ko, who was also at the great desolate level like them? Why bother? It's a waste of time. Seeing Orochi directly use Orochi's flower slash, there was no fear on Guhan's face. Instead, he said with an eager expression, "You guys might as well come at me together. I will send you back the way I resurrected you." Brother Military Governor, shut up. Don't talk like that. Apologize to everyone. Ping Tian and Chi Tian were anxious. This Guhan was provoking them. Even they wanted to beat up Guhan, let alone others. Therefore, Ping Tian and Chi Tian could only try their best to persuade Guhan to admit defeat. Thank you, seniors. Don't worry. I will send these 4 back. You two can continue to live in this world. Guhan said. Ugh. Ping Tian and Chi Tian almost vomited blood. They really did not want to help such a person. Good. Very good. Ultra King was so angry that the light bulbs in his eyes were about to explode. He stood next to Orochi and said, Orochi, leave this guy to me. I will send him on his way with King's light wave. Odin, who was gloomy and cunning, was also very angry at Guhan. He was about to teach Gahan a lesson. He was shocked to find that Wu Ziqian, who was the most overbearing and violent woman, did not show any signs of anger. Instead, she took a few steps back and stood with Qi Tian and Ping Tian. She did not seem to have any intention of attacking Gahan. There must be something wrong here. Odin reacted instinctively. The anger in his mind instantly disappeared. He followed Wu Zetian and took a few steps back. Since Wu Zetian did not attack, there was no need for him to attack. As a result, heavens equal and heavens equal and heavens equal and heavens equal realized that Odin and Wu Zetian had chosen to stand with them. This puzzled the two Sword Emperors. What are you two doing? Ultra King also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side, Orochi could not hold back anymore. Hundreds of tentacles that were more than 40 meters long slashed at Gahan from all directions. They were as fast as lightning. On the other side, Gahan did not move. It was as if he did not care about Orochi's attack at all. You are asking for it. Orochi became even more frenzied. Orochi, how dare you bully my husband? How dare you? Suddenly, a clear and angry voice echoed through the underground palace. She's here. She really did attack. Hearing this voice, Wu Zetian's expression froze. Then, a look of relief appeared on her face. It was as if she was glad that she did not choose to attack. This Wu Manyang, why is she? Odin saw Wu Zetian's reaction and suddenly felt that things were very strange. At the same time, he felt as if he had heard this voice somewhere before. It was so familiar that he felt fear from the depths of his soul. Could it be her? Just as the figure of a woman appeared in Odin's mind, countless sword lights filled the entire underground palace. When the sword lights faded, Orochi, who had been standing in place, had disappeared. All that was left were countless pieces of flesh on the ground. 8 heads with terrified expressions kept moving on the ground. The pieces of flesh around them were trying to get closer to Orochi's heads. Only by completely destroying all of Yamada no Orochi's heads would it be able to resurrect with its own power sooner or later. Such an injury would not be able to completely harm Yamada no Orochi's foundation. But as soon as the opponent's sword chi appeared, Yamada no Orochi's body was completely torn apart. If this kind of strength was used against a universal level bandit, that universal level bandit would probably not survive for more than 5 seconds. It should be known that even if Odin wanted to kill his brother Loki, who was a universe rank Yuan Ko, it was difficult. He had let Loki escape time and time again. If the owner of the sword energy had attacked, Loki would not have been able to escape. Orochi, do you want to die again? A foot wearing sneakers stepped on Orochi's head. I don't dare. Your Majesty, shrouding heaven. I really don't dare. Orochi's head said miserably. He was a desolation rank Yuan Ko, but he ended up like this. It was really sad. Chapter 1322. Long time no see, everyone. I Ching raised his head and scanned everyone with his eagle-like eyes. The great sages who met I Ching's gaze could not help but lower their heads. They did not dare to look directly at I Ching. It was as if they were mice that had seen a cat. Zetian, there are 6 of us here today, but you are alone. We can kill you if we join forces. Ultron King said loudly, but there was a sense of guilt in his voice. What a joke. I Ching sneered disdainfully. You are so afraid of the current heavenly court that you want to escape. Do you still dare to be presumptuous in front of me? I Ching's words made the others shut their mouths. They could not help but recall the battle 800 years ago. They suddenly became terrified. This did not seem right. According to Liu Ban, in the battle 800 years ago, I Ching cooperated with the 2 desolation level Yuan Ko to barely resist the attack of the 6 great sages. Later, when the heavenly court's reinforcements returned, it led to the final defeat. Could it be that the battle 800 years ago was not like what Liu Ban said? There was more to it than meets the eye. If the 6 of you want to fight, I will accompany you anytime. I Ching kicked the head of Orochi away. Orochi's head rolled like a ball and finally fell in a corner. The limbs on the ground moved quickly and crawled towards the head. I Ching was not sure what was going on. All right, you can start now. Let me see if you still have the blood of 800 years ago, I Ching said coldly. The entire underground palace was silent. None of the 6 great sages dared to speak. I Ching's words alone had completely suppressed 6 opponents of the same level. The fear in the hearts of these great sages could be imagined. Is this really the little woman in the igloo the other day? Artoria was speechless. She could not associate the domineering woman in front of her with a woman who was as gentle as a willow in March when she faced Gahan in the igloo. Perhaps this is the woman who is worthy of the military governor. Artoria thought to herself. Ching, don't be like this. I think we can still sit down and talk. Finally, a voice broke the deadlock on the surface. Gahan slowly walked to I Ching's side and said to I Ching, "That's right. We can sit down and talk." Odin was the first to respond, and was the first to follow up on Gahan's words. "That's right. I heard that you, Jetian, were tricked by the Heavenly Court's people. We're all enemies of the Heavenly Court, so why do we have to be enemies? Can we just sit down and talk?" Wu Zetian said. "Yes, that's right. Let's talk it out. Let's talk about it." On the other side, Orochi's body finally came back. It walked back carefully, raised its tentacles, and said, "We are all partners of justice. Everyone was a hero. They're all heroes." Out of the 6 great sages, 4 of them had made their stand. Only Pingtian Jiandi and Heaven's equal Jiandi had a strange expression on their faces. They did not seem willing to talk to I Ching. Logically speaking, I Ching was the same as these 2 Jiandi. They were all pure-blooded humans, so there should not be such a conflict between them. But looking at Pingtian Jiandi and Heaven's equal Jiandi, it seemed like they had a deeper grudge against I Ching. "That's good. Since everyone is willing to talk, then let's sit down and talk." I Ching nodded. The other great sages felt as if they had been pardoned and finally sat down together, then fell into silence again. I Ching did not speak, and the other great sages did not even have the courage to speak. "I want to take revenge on the Heavenly Court," I Ching said calmly. "Back then, after I killed you, the Heavenly Court took advantage of the fact that I had used up most of my power to gang up on me. I was attacked from all sides, and in the end, I had no choice but to explode my own soul and hide under Kunlun Mountain, just like all of you, until my husband resurrected me today. I have to take my revenge. Are you all willing to come with me?" Everyone hesitated. After a long time, Odin said, "If what you say is true, Your Majesty Jetian, we're naturally willing to attack the Heavenly Court with Your Majesty Jetian. But you know what happened back then. You have already betrayed us once. How can we trust you a second time?" "That's where you're wrong." I Ching laughed coldly. "I did not betray you back then. I have always been a member of the Heavenly Court. I was only willing to work with you because the Heavenly Court gave me a mission. It's funny that I trusted the Heavenly Court so much. I really thought that they would be able to create a harmonious human world. I did not expect to end up like this. I will definitely return this debt to the Heavenly Court." Betrayal is betrayal. Don't make it sound so nice. It's just that you were betrayed. Heaven's equal Jindi stood up and shouted. Heaven's equal Jindi was startled. He immediately pressed his brother down and whispered, "Are you crazy? You argued with her. She's going to kill you." AI. Hearing Heaven's equal Sword Emperor's words, I Ching sighed and finally stood up. He bowed to the 6 great sages and said in a sincere voice, "I'm sorry for what happened in the past. I apologize to everyone. Please forgive my stupidity." Heavens! Jetian Jindi actually apologized to me. Everyone looked at each other. In their memories, Jetian Jindi was a very arrogant woman. They had never seen her apologize to anyone before. But now, she was bowing to them. Just this apology alone was enough to dispel most of the suspicions and hostility in the 6 great sages' hearts. If not for the fact that Jetian Jindi knew that she was wrong, she would never have apologized. "Lord Liu Ban, what's going on? Why is it that what I heard is completely different from what I know?" Artoria was confused. She could not understand why the 6 great sages would say that I Ching had betrayed them. But looking at I Ching's sincere apology, it seemed to be the truth. I knew it wasn't as simple as it seemed. Lu Ban spread his hands and revealed a strange expression. Don't ask me. Because they were afraid that the secret would be leaked, the 6 great sages planned it alone. We were only responsible for cooperating with them. Let me tell you what happened back then. Guhan walked up to Artoria. While I Ching was chatting with the others, he said to Artoria and Lu Ban, actually, it wasn't 6 great sages who planned the rebellion. It was 7 great sages. Guhan said faintly. This was the story he had heard from I Ching. It turned out that I Ching's existence was not a secret. At that time, the 6 great sages already knew that there was a human emperor sword wielder in the celestial court. As for the reason, I Ching had come to them herself. At that time, I Ching had taken the initiative to find heaven's equal Jindy. After revealing her identity as an emperor sword wielder, although heaven's equal Jindy had some doubts, he had taken the initiative to accept I Ching and chatted with her. I Ching told heaven's equal Jindy that she was a sword celestial who had been trained by the celestial court since she was young. She had never known the truth about humans. She only knew that she had met a human sword wielder. Just as she was about to kill this demon, the sword wielder had used his identity to tell I Ching the truth. At that point, I Ching had developed a deep suspicion about humans and herself. She had looked up a lot of information and ruins and finally discovered a shocking truth. Humans were actually a race that had been enslaved by the celestial court. She was not a sword celestial, but a human sword wielder. She had been brainwashed by the celestial court. With this discovery, I Ching had found heaven's equal Jindy. She had clearly expressed her hope that the two of them would work together to eliminate the hypocritical celestial court in one fell swoop. As I Ching had already told the truth about humans, heaven's equal Jindy had instinctively believed her. It was like a wolf child who had been raised by wolves. Suddenly, she had taken the initiative to tell you that she had discovered that she was actually a human and wanted to return to the human world. You would definitely not doubt her words. After all, it was natural for her to return to the human race. Therefore, heaven's equal Jindy had called heaven's equal Jindy to Mount Huagua. After the 3 of them had a discussion, they began to contact the other great sages. In the end, humans and the remaining 6 great sages of Yuan Ko had all united together and began the plan to destroy the celestial court. During this period, I Ching had taken the initiative to show her strength to the 6 great sages. The 6 great sages were very encouraged. They felt that with the 7 of them, it would be very easy to destroy the celestial court. They all agreed to this plan. In the end, I Ching told everyone that she would continue to lurk in the celestial court and pretend that she had not discovered her identity. She hoped that the 6 great sages would not reveal her secret. The 6 great sages executed this very well. None of them revealed the existence of I Ching. Therefore, later generations did not know that I Ching was actually the 7th great sage. On the day of the agreed general attack, the 6 great sages easily broke into the celestial court with I Ching's support and started a battle with the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court who stayed there. The 2 celestial emperors were no match for the 7 great sages at all. In the blink of an eye, they were about to kill each other. When everyone felt that victory was in sight, I Ching suddenly stabbed her compatriot, heaven's equal Jindy. Heaven's equal Jindy, who was caught off guard, was severely injured on the spot. At this time, I Ching's true face was revealed. It turned out that she was a double-sided spy. She was the bait deliberately thrown out by the celestial court to lure the 6 great sages to send themselves to their deaths. But when everything was revealed, the void of the entire celestial court had been completely sealed. The 6 great sages could no longer escape from the celestial court. Chapter 1323. Next, I Ching cooperated with the celestial court's desolate grade Yuan Ko to counterattack the 6 great sages. However, the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court had been seriously injured in the previous battle. In the end, they could only serve as a distraction. I Ching was fighting 6 great sages on her own. It was only at this moment that these great sages saw how terrifying I Ching's strength was. She could suppress 6 great sages on her own. These were 6 Yuan Ko of the same level. Not only could I Ching suppress them, but she could also gain the upper hand. Such a performance had surpassed the traditional Emperor's Sword level sword-bearers. The 6 great sages even suspected that I Ching's strength might have broken through Emperor's Sword level sword-bearers and reached the legendary level. It was also during this battle that the fear of I Ching was deeply imprinted in the hearts of these 6 great sages. They were imprinted with the impression that I Ching could not be defeated. Later, with the return of the other 3 celestial emperors, there was no more suspense in the battle. In the end, the 6 great sages used self-destruction to break through the celestial court seal on the void. Their souls collapsed and were suppressed in various places. So there was such a story back then. After listening to Gahan's narration, Artoria's expression was one of surprise. She did not expect there to be such a hidden history 800 years ago. She did not expect I Ching's strength to be so terrifying. She could fight 6 great sages on her own. She was simply a god among gods and demons. Your Majesty Shu Tian, since you have apologized to us, we are willing to trust you a little more. I want to ask you, what happened to you after we self-destructed? Odin asked. Me? I Ching laughed self-deprecatingly. After the battle with you, my sword essence was almost exhausted. Then, the 5 people of the Celestial Court launched a sneak attack on me from behind. They defeated me, who had lost my sword essence. In the end, I ended up self-destructing like all of you. So that's what happened. In fact, I've already reminded you during the battle. Odin nodded with a sorrowful and puzzled look on his face. I told you back then that you can't trust the people of the Heavenly Court. After you help them defeat us, they'll immediately attack you. But I just don't understand why you didn't believe me back then and insisted on working for the Heavenly Court. Because I have no conflict of interest with the Heavenly Court. I Ching hesitated for a moment before replying. How is this possible? You are a human, and the Heavenly Court is Yuan Ko. The conflict between the two of you is innate and irreconcilable. Moreover, without the main conflict between us and the Heavenly Court, the conflict of interest between you and the Heavenly Court is inevitable. It is impossible that it does not exist, Odin said firmly. What if I join the Heavenly Court after killing all of you and become the Heavenly Court's 6th Heavenly Emperor, Central Earth Great Emperor? I Ching said calmly. What? The 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They never imagined that the Heavenly Court would give I Ching such a condition. The Heavenly Court had 5 desolate-level Yuan Ko Great Emperors, which meant that the Heavenly Court had 5 Heavenly Emperors. One of them was the Central Jade Emperor, named Hao Tian. This was the same title as Yin Jing City's previous Jiandi. The second was the Western Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity, named North Star. The third was the Northern North Pole Middle Sky Emperor of Polarity, named Bo Ikao. The fourth was the Southern South Pole Longevity Emperor, named South Pole Immortal Wang, a disciple of Old Lord Taishan. The fifth was the Eastern East Pole Viridescent Light Emperor, named Xiaohao. He was Hao Tian's younger brother. These 5 heavenly emperors occupied the east, west, north, south, and center directions. This meant that they ruled over the entire primitive universe. This was a rule that had been passed down since ancient times. The Heavenly Court only had these 5 heavenly emperors. There had never been a time when there were 6 heavenly emperors. This Jade Emperor had actually broken the rules and forcibly created the 6th Central Earth Great Emperor. In terms of title, he was actually on par with the Central Jade Emperor. His position was even higher than the other 4 heavenly emperors. This was equivalent to giving I Ching a position that was second only to the Heavenly Court. It was no wonder that the 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They even looked a little jealous. If the Heavenly Court had been willing to give the 6 of them the same conditions, they would probably have rushed over and sat in their positions with peace of mind. They wouldn't have cared about the lives of others. No, even if the Heavenly Court gave you such a position, you should also know that you are a human being. The positions given by the Heavenly Court are all empty. You can be promoted by them, but you can also be beaten down by them. You won't be so stupid. After the initial envy, jealousy, and hatred, Odin quickly reacted. The position of the sixth heavenly emperor was just a lollipop used to deceive children. It was impossible for I Ching not to see the trick in it. I am indeed different from those heavenly emperors of the heavenly court. The people of the heavenly court are unlikely to believe me. But if I send my true spirit to the deification list, the heavenly emperors of the heavenly court will be 100% at ease with me. I Ching replied, "What? You actually want to send your true spirit to the deification list? Are you crazy? You give up your freedom and want to be a slave to the Jade Emperor." Odin said in disbelief. The other 5 great sages were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why I Ching would do this. Other than agreeing to this condition, is there any other way for me to make the heavenly court trust me? I Ching said with a wry smile. Everyone was speechless. Indeed, this was the only way to make the heavenly court trust I Ching. Other than that, the heavenly court would never trust I Ching. The deification list was an important tool for the whole heavenly court to be united and not betray. All the immortals of the heavenly court sent a trace of their true spirit to the deification list, which was under the control of the Jade Emperor. As long as the deification list was in his hands, the Jade Emperor could destroy the true spirit in the deification list at any time. Once the true spirit was destroyed, no matter how strong those immortals were, they would be turned into ashes in an instant. There was no chance of them surviving. Therefore, the immortals of the heavenly court were extremely loyal to the Jade Emperor. It couldn't be helped. After all, their lives were in the hands of the Jade Emperor. The fact that I Ching was willing to send his true spirit to the investiture of the gods meant that he had completely placed his life in the hands of the Jade Emperor. He had truly become a member of the heavenly court. The Jade Emperor would no longer have to worry about I Ching's loyalty. The distrust between them would also disappear. It was no wonder that I Ching would completely trust the heavenly court and not be on guard against them. I Ching had already chosen to be a slave of the heavenly court, even if the slave was a central celestial emperor. But if that's the case, why did the heavenly court want to kill you? This doesn't make sense. Since you were willing to join the deification list, the heavenly court had no reason to kill you. Don't they want a sharp sword like you that won't cut themselves? Odin asked in disbelief. First of all, I didn't send my true spirit into the deification list at that time. Once I did, I definitely couldn't hide it from your eyes. You definitely wouldn't believe me. So when I defeated you, I wasn't a member of the heavenly court yet. Secondly, it's probably because the strength I've displayed scared them. I Ching smiled bitterly. After I was ambushed by the Jade Emperor, I asked them the same question. Why weren't they willing to believe me? I was clearly willing to send my true spirit into the deification list. In the end, Hao Tian told me that I was too strong, so strong that I had already reached the critical point of controlling the deification list. If I were given a few hundred more years to cultivate, the deification list wouldn't be able to trap my true spirit. In order to be safe, they could only kill me when I was exhausted. What? The deification list couldn't trap you? Oh my God, is your strength already that terrifying? Legend has it that the deification list has twice the sealing power of its controller. In other words, unless one's strength exceeds the Jade Emperor's by twice, they won't be able to escape the deification list control. Odin murmured to himself in a daze. I Ching's words once again shocked all the Yuanko present to the point that they couldn't close their mouths. But thinking about it carefully, this was a matter of course. The Jade Emperor himself was a desolate grade origin bandit who could fight against 3 great sages alone. If he wanted to break free from the investiture of the gods' control, he would need to have twice the strength of the Jade Emperor. In other words, I Ching had already reached the level where he could fight against 6 great sages alone. This had already been proven by I Ching's battle with the 6 great sages. No wonder the Jade Emperor was so afraid of I Ching. He didn't even trust the deification list and directly ordered I Ching to be killed. I didn't expect that the reason you died in the end was because you were too strong, Wu Zetian whispered. At the same time, She felt a burst of shame in her heart. He would die because he was too weak. But I Ching died because she was too strong. What the hell was this? Wu Zetian's words also caused the other 6 great sages to feel the same way. Yes, they lowered their heads in shame. No, I didn't die because I was too strong. I Ching shook his head and said, on the contrary, I'm still too weak. If I could defeat all 11 of you by myself, I would be able to live. So, the reason why I died is because I'm too weak. Well, after I Ching said this, the great sages present were even more ashamed. They couldn't even lift their heads. However, Heaven's equal genie suddenly raised his head and looked at I Ching with anger and confusion. He asked why. Why did you have to be the celestial emperor of the heavenly court? Why did you betray your own race? Chapter 13:24. One could imagine how much pain the Heaven's equal sword emperor felt when he asked this question. He was the one who led I Ching to join the alliance of the 6 great sages. He was the one who watched I Ching stab the blade of betrayal into his own heart. He was the one who watched I Ching force everyone into a desperate situation. He had been suffering from I Ching's betrayal for the past 800 years. That was why Ginny asked this question. He wanted to know why I Ching had betrayed her own people. I did not betray my people. My heart has always been with the humans, from the beginning to the end. I Ching was very calm in the face of Ginny's question. It was as if he was eating and drinking. You liar. You wanted to join the heavenly court and become the 6th heavenly emperor. You even wanted to join the gods' list and become the heavenly court's dog. You betrayed the 6 of us and the entire human race. You're just a greedy and vain woman. Why do you have to say that your heart is with us humans? Tian practically shouted out these words from her own throat. I have no reason to lie to you. My heart will always be with the humans. I'm doing this for them. I Ching let out a long sigh. His tone softened slightly as he asked the Heaven's equal sword emperor, Your Majesty, let me ask you. If we had really defeated the heavenly court 800 years ago and killed all the heavenly emperors in the heavenly court, what would we humans have gained? Freedom, of course. We would be free from the heavenly court's control and brainwashing. We would regain our own freedom. Heaven's equal Jindy answered without hesitation. But if we had defeated the heavenly court, would we really have freedom? I Ching asked. I Ching's question made Jinny choke. He waited for a while before replying, We could rebuild Beijing City. With Beijing City, we would be free. Even if we defeated the heavenly court and rebuilt Beijing City, so what? I Ching continued to interrogate. We've just returned to the past. All humans continue to hide in Yanjing City, watching the Yuan Ko wreaking havoc outside in fear. Our sword bearers will return to the past and fight the Yuan Ko endlessly for 1,000 years. As I Ching spoke, he pointed to the other 6 non-human great sages. The moment we defeat the heavenly court, these 4 people will be like the 5 celestial emperors in the past. They will turn their spears in an instant and aim their sharp blades at us, killing us completely, just like what the heavenly court did to me in the past. No, how could we do that? After listening to I Ching's words, the other 4 great sages quickly waved their hands and denied it. However, from the awkward expressions on their faces, it seemed that they really did have such thoughts in their hearts. After all, the humans in Yuan Ko had only joined forces because of the situation and because of the existence of a colossal being like the Heavenly Court. If the Heavenly Court fell, the humans in Yuan Ko would immediately return to being mortal enemies. There would be no friendship to speak of. No problem. Even if the 4 of them dare to make a move, with the 3 of us joining forces, who knows who will be eliminated? Heaven's equal Jindy said unwillingly. Indeed, I Ching alone could deal with 6 great sages. If Heaven's equal Jindy and Heaven's equal Jindy were by I Ching's side, the remaining 4 great sages would definitely not be I Ching's match. These cunning humans, upon hearing Heaven's equal's words, the other 4 Yuan Ko great sages, who were feeling a little ashamed, immediately clenched their fists. At the same time, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Yes, if they had dared to make a move at that time, the four of them would probably have died instead. Even if we killed the four of them, so what? The dimensional rifts will continue to appear, and new Yuan Co-Great Sages will enter this world. However, our lifespans are not endless. While we are alive, we can suppress the heavens and give humans freedom. However, after we die, the Yuan Co-Great Sages will make a comeback, and humans will never be able to obtain true freedom. I Ching's words caused heaven's equal Jiandi and heaven's equal Jiandi to sink into deep thought. They had to admit that I Ching's words did make sense. Therefore, after I discovered the truth about humans 800 years ago, I thought hard for a long time and realized that what humans actually needed was not freedom, but safety. Safety is always ranked above freedom. This is the most important thing. If humans lost their lives, what was the point of freedom? After that, I discovered that, after being brainwashed by the heavenly court, apart from losing a certain amount of freedom, humans were actually surprisingly safe. The heavenly court would no longer kill humans. Instead, they could provide humans with a relatively safe area so that humans could leave the protection of the city walls and obtain personal freedom and safety within a certain range. This was what humans truly needed. Later on, I understood that the heavenly court was actually not the enemy of humans. Instead, it could act as the protector of humans. As long as the heavenly court was powerful enough to expand to the entire earth, the freedom and safety of humans could similarly extend to the entire earth. All humans had to pay was a meager price in faith. I looked up information from before the Great Calamity. During the Middle Ages, humans lived in a world where humans and gods intermingled. The gods were high and mighty and were worshipped by humans, while humans could obtain relative safety by praying for the gods' blessings. This pattern had been going on for thousands of years during the Middle Ages, and humans were already used to it. Countless humans in the Middle Ages pursued the pinnacle of life, such as ascending to immortality. Those gods did not cause any harm to humans and instead protected them. Isn't this the most suitable method for humans? Isn't this the method that can give humans the greatest safety and freedom? All I'm doing is returning humans to the Middle Ages where humans and gods intermingled. Moreover, as long as I can join the heavenly court and become the great emperor of the earth in the center of the heavenly court, I can obtain eternal life as well. As long as I'm in the heavenly court, I can protect humans from being exploited and oppressed by the heavenly court. I can protect the safety of the entire human race. This is the true safety and eternal way for humans. Therefore, in order to realize this dream of mine, I need to join the heavenly court and gain its trust. I need to become one of the supreme beings in the heavenly court. Therefore, I need to use your lives to prove my worth. Even if I have to sacrifice the only two Jiandi, I won't hesitate. At this point, I Ching's speech finally ended. All the 6 great sages were silent. Among them, the 2 Jiandi were probably the most at a loss and the most confused. They believed what I Ching said because deep down in their hearts, they always felt that I Ching was a woman who fought for the sake of humanity. She would not betray the entire human race for her own benefit. However, they could not figure out the reason for I Ching's betrayal. Now that they heard I Ching's words, they finally understood why I Ching would betray them. At the same time, although they were reluctant, they vaguely felt that I Ching was right. She was right. What she said was indeed the best home for the human race. She had betrayed them for the sake of humanity. At this thought, Ping Tian and Chi Tian's minds were in a mess. They did not know what to say or do. They did not know if they should treat I Ching as a friend or an enemy. Therefore, the entire underground palace fell into silence. No one stood up to break the silence until Gahan spoke. What about now? Ching, do you still have the same idea as before? Do you want to build a theocratic society like the Middle Ages? Guhan stood up and asked I Ching. No, I don't. I've thought it through. I was too naive back then. I thought that building a theocratic society would allow humans to live in peace. However, I've forgotten one thing. I Ching replied. What did you forget? Chi Tian Jindi raised his head and asked. I forgot. Back then, our ancestors put in a lot of effort to break free from the theocratic society of the Middle Ages. They obtained freedom of thought and will. In just a few hundred years, they surpassed the human race's development over thousands of years. A theocratic society might have its benefits, but it's also like a shackle that will firmly lock the human race down. Although humans will be safe, they will forever lose the possibility to develop and move forward. My actions might be beneficial for the time being. However, in the long run, after thousands or tens of thousands of years, humans will hate me as the ancestor who shackled them. Be it suffering or death, these are all experiences that humans must go through. Once humans can break free from this tragic world and eliminate all their enemies, they will be able to break free from the cocoon and be reborn. Just like the great changes that the first industrial revolution brought to mankind, mankind will step into a brand new era. I Ching. After listening to I Ching's words, Chi Tian Jindi and Ping Tian Jinni's expressions instantly became extremely excited. They looked at I Ching with bright eyes, as if they were completely convinced by I Ching. Yes, that's right. Chi Tian Jindi and Ping Tian Jindi were completely convinced by I Ching's words. They took the initiative to stand beside I Ching and stretched out their right hands to I Ching. I Ching stretched out his left hand and grasped both of their hands tightly. Then what should we do? It seems like we have another powerful opponent, the human race. The remaining 4 great sages of Yuanko smiled wryly and said to each other warily. At the same time, they began to observe their surroundings, trying to find a way to retreat. If I Ching, Chi Tian, and Ping Tian were to join forces, they would be nothing more than cannon fodder. The 4 of you don't go. I still have something to say to you. I Ching noticed the 4 great sages' actions and took the initiative to walk in front of them. Chi Tian and Ping Tian followed behind, I Ching silently, as if they were his subordinates. I plan to destroy the heavenly court, I Ching said calmly. I need your strength. I can swear on my sword mark that after the heavenly court is destroyed, as long as the 4 of you don't attack humans, the 3 of us won't attack you either. I've said it before, the 3 of us will die in the end. After all, this is the world of the later generations. Let our later generations deal with the 4 of you. What you said is true. You really won't attack us? Hearing I Ching's words, the 4 great sages immediately asked impatiently. What they were most afraid of now was that I Ching would attack them. This kind of fear was even greater than the fear of the heavenly court. Of course, as long as you are willing to join forces with us to destroy the heavenly court, I Ching said. Deal. After looking at each other for a while, the 6 great sages finally reached a consensus again. The mission to destroy the heavenly court could finally be carried out. At this time, there were less than 24 hours left of the week. Chapter 13:25. There were only 24 hours left, so I Ching immediately said that they would attack the heavenly court now. Odin and the other great sages were worried about this. It was better for them to prepare a more appropriate battle plan. I Ching gave a domineering answer. With me here, what battle plan do you need? The great sages were speechless. But on second thought, this was indeed the truth. With I Ching, who could fight against 6 of them, and the 6 of them, the heavenly court would not be able to hold on no matter what. In layman's terms, as long as Ace went up, they would win. Just as everyone was about to charge toward the celestial court, the enemy came to them on their own. The scouts around the underground palace sent an urgent message. 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals were pressing down on the entire Xianying airport like dark clouds. Hurry up and move. Everyone run. Hearing this news, the Yuan bandits instantly became extremely panic-stricken. Like headless flies, they scurried around the entire underground palace, planning to escape from here. All of you stop, Liu Ban shouted, and the entire underground palace fell silent. Comrades, why are you panicking? Liu Ban's voice was full of vigor. He did not sound like a white-haired old man at all. Running for our lives is a thing of the past. Now that we have the great sages again, we don't need to run away this time. We'll fight head-on with these heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals at Xianying Airport. We will avenge the 800 years of humiliation. Reporting, Your Majesty, a large number of demons have gathered at the Xianying Airport. They are in formation at the same time. There are more than 100,000 of them. Above the clouds in the sky, the clairvoyant and clairaudient reported to the celestial emperors sitting on 5 cloud chairs. Among them, the celestial emperor sitting in the middle wore a golden imperial robe, while the other 4 celestial emperors wore white, red, green, and purple imperial robes respectively, representing the west, south, east, and north celestial emperors. Haha, these ants actually jumped out and even dared to form a formation. I thought they would scatter like usual. Green Emperor Xiaohao said disdainfully. Green Emperor, don't be careless. These demons are acting out of character. They actually took the initiative to fight. This means that they already have the confidence to fight. We have to be careful. Red Emperor South Pole, Immortal, said cautiously. That's right. According to the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Thunder Department, the remnant souls of the 6 great guarding places have all disappeared without a trace. The subordinates we left there have all been killed. It seems like the rumors are true. These people have been trying to resurrect the 6 idiots from back then. White Emperor Go, Chan said. We are the masters of kings, and the rest of them are just a bunch of monsters. 800 years ago, we were able to destroy their souls, and 800 years later, we're nothing more than that. As long as we, the masters of kings, come forth in an upright manner, these monsters won't even be able to withstand a single blow, and they'll all be reduced to ashes. Purple Emperor Bo Ikao said in a dignified but somewhat rigid manner. They actually took the initiative to jump out and fight with me. This is beyond my expectations. The Jade Emperor, Hao Tian, who was sitting in the middle, finally said, I thought these 6 fellows were scared out of their wits and would run away as soon as they were resurrected. Now, looking at the formation these demons have formed, it seems they have chosen to fight us head-on instead of running away. This is indeed out of my expectation. Yes, we've set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province in order to catch them one by one. Who would have thought that after waiting for a day or two, we still have to deal with them with such great fanfare? South Pole Immortal Wang said with a wry smile. It turned out that the Heavenly Court had long been aware of the 6 Yuan Ko's plan to resurrect, and had long known about the secret base under Xianying Airport. However, after all, they had been enemies for so long. The 5 celestial emperors of the Heavenly Court had long seen through the minds of these 6 Yuan Ko's. They knew that they didn't have the guts to fight the Heavenly Court at all, and would definitely run away and hide in a safe place. Therefore, the Heavenly Court had set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province. They wanted to trap the 6 great sages in the formation while they were running away, and then concentrate their forces to destroy them one by one, easily strangling the 6 great sages. As a result, after waiting for almost 2 days, the inescapable snare formation did not gain anything useful except for killing some useless Yuan Ko minions. The 5 celestial emperors naturally thought that they had estimated wrongly. They felt that these 6 great sages still had some intelligence, so they could only turn a hidden arrow into a spear in the open. They led 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals in a dignified manner, intending to annihilate this wave of the biggest resistance force in one go. If these celestial emperors knew that the 6 great sages almost ran away separately, but were suppressed because of Liu Ban's performance, these celestial emperors would probably explode in anger. In less than 5 minutes, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the Heavenly Court arrived above Xianying Airport on the auspicious cloud. On the ground, more than 100,000 Yuan Ko's also set up a formation. One was the sky, and the other was the ground. The 2 armies confronted each other on the ground and in the air. It was somewhat like a super decisive battle that would end the whole story. At first glance, the 2 armies seemed to be evenly matched. However, upon closer comparison, one would realize that the two armies were as far apart as the distance between heaven and earth, just like the distance between the two sides. The army of the heavenly court and the allied army of the Yuan bandits consisted of about 100,000 people each, but the soldiers of the heavenly court were all wearing shiny silver battle armors. These were not ordinary battle armors, but battle armors made with the dimensional alloy technology of human beings. Every battle armor could withstand the strongest strike of the Soul Realm Yuan bandits. As for the Coalition Army's armor, the Coalition Army did not have armor at all. They were all in their original forms when they came to this world. Only a few Yuan Ko's wore armor brought from another world, while most of the Coalition Army's bodies were exposed. In terms of equipment, the Yuan Ko Coalition Army was completely outclassed. What was even worse was their aura. The Celestial Soldiers and Celestial Generals were all meticulously trained soldiers, and all of them were expressionless and as cold as the icebergs of the South Pole. They exuded a cold, murderous aura, and when these auras fused together, they were like 400-meter-long broadswords, causing the scattered Yuan Ko Coalition Army to tremble in fear. As for the battle formations of the two armies, well, there was nothing much to say. One side was an elite army, and their battle formations were perfect without any flaws. The other side was a mess, and one could tell at a glance that it was a hastily put-together battle formation. It looked like a line of elementary school students lining up to do radio calisthenics. Then there was the level of the two armies. The Celestial Soldiers and Celestial Generals of the Heavenly Court were standardized armies. Every Celestial Soldier and Celestial General had at least the strength of a soul level, which was equivalent to a human treasure sword-level sword wielder. As for the middle and low-level officers, such as the captains, they had the strength of a Flood Dragon level or a Dragon level, which was equivalent to a human-famed sword-level sword wielder. The high-level officers who led the troops were at least at the level of a Nether-level Yuan Ko. A rough estimate showed that in the Heavenly Court's army, there were more than 2,000 people who were equivalent to a famed sword level, and about 300 people who were equivalent to a spirit sword level. In addition, there were also Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals who were responsible for holding the line between the various troops. Each of them was equivalent to a human immortal sword-level sword wielder, and there were more than 20 of them. Looking at the Yuan Ko Coalition Army, in terms of the low-level combat power, the performance was uneven. Although the Ghost level and Soul level Yuan Ko were the main force, there were also some Mouse level and Tiger level Yuan Ko. Then there was the middle-level combat power. In this, the Yuan Ko Coalition Army had a slight advantage. There were more than 3,000 Flood Dragon level and Dragon level Yuan Ko, which was more than the number of people in the Heavenly Court. However, in terms of the high-level and top-level combat power, the Yuan Ko Coalition Army was completely defeated. There were less than 100 Nether-level and Meteor-level Yuan Ko, which was far less than the 300 in the Heavenly Court. And there were only 2 Universe-level Yuan Ko, Artoria and Luban. Even if Lin Yinling was included, there were only 3, which was a pitifully small number. The top combat power of the Yuan Ko Coalition Army was so pitiful because of the continuous killing by the Heavenly Court in the past 800 years. Whenever these 2 levels of Yuan Ko came to this world, they were often discovered by the Heavenly Court before they could familiarize themselves with this world. Then, the Heavenly Court mobilized an army to kill them on the spot. Many Yuan Ko returned to their own worlds after coming to this world for less than 3 days. When all the details of the 2 armies were exposed to the audience, none of them had any doubt that when the 2 armies collided head-on, the Celestial Soldiers and Generals of the Heaven would definitely wipe out these Yuan bandits as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. However, the 2 armies didn't start fighting immediately. It was hard to say what would happen in real life, but according to the routine in games and novels, at this time, the leaders of both sides would need to have a few verbal exchanges to show that they were on the side of justice, and then denounce the other side as traitors and so on. Even the Heavenly Soldiers and Generals of the Heavenly Court and the Yuan Ko Army were no exception to this. Soon, a gargantuan giant emerged from the ranks of the heavenly soldiers and generals. Hey, I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the Jade Emperor has ordered me to subdue you. Quickly remove your disguise and submit to the heavens, lest all the beasts in this mountain be killed. If you say no, I'll turn you into dust. The mighty spirit god's voice was very loud, as if it could spread throughout the entire Shanxi province. However, everyone was confused when they heard this. What the hell did he mean? Remove his disguise? All the beasts in the mountain? What the hell was this? You idiot! What the hell are you talking about? Pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, who was standing behind the mighty spirit god, cursed with a livid expression. This, heavenly king, please forgive me. I said the lines I used to attack the demon monkeys. I only have these few lines in my life. It's very easy to say it wrong. The mighty spirit god rubbed his head in shame and tried to salvage the situation. Hey, I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the heavenly emperor has ordered me to have a chat with my old friends. I wonder if you dare to meet him? Since the Jade Emperor wishes to meet us, there's no reason for us not to meet him. 6 bright voices came from the Yuan co-coalition army at the same time. These 6 great sages walked out from the crowd and faced the heavenly court soldiers and generals alone. On the other hand, the cloud chairs of the 5 heavenly emperors also floated out. The strongest forces of both sides, as well as old friends, officially met at this moment. Chapter 13:26. Everyone, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect to see you again. The Jade Emperor looked at the 6 great sages in front of him and said with a smile. There was no tension before the start of the war. In fact, not only the Jade Emperor, but the other 4 celestial emperors also looked calm. Although they were one less than the other side, the Jade Emperor's strength was indisputable. In addition, the Jade Emperor had just been resurrected. His strength was certainly not as good as before. There was no possibility of the heavenly court losing this battle. At the same time, the heavenly court had set up the dragnet formation in advance, sealing most of Shanxi province. Unless the formation was broken, the 6 great sages would not be able to escape from the dragnet formation. In the minds of the 5 celestial emperors of the heavenly court, the victory had been decided the moment they appeared. What they had to do now was just a game of cat and mouse. I would like to go to the heavenly court with you to talk about the interesting things in the past. I wonder if you would do me the honor and accompany me? The Jade Emperor asked with a smile. Are you kidding me? If we go to your heavenly court, will the 6 of us still be alive? Odin sneered. They had experienced the dangers of the heavenly court in the past. If it were not for the double agent I Ching leading the way, they would have been trapped in the many formations of the heavenly court. If they followed the Jade Emperor into the heavenly court now, they might not even have the chance to escape by self-detonation. So even if they killed the 6 great sages now, they would not follow the Jade Emperor to the heavenly court. That's a pity, the Jade Emperor sighed. Originally, I was thinking that my investiture of the gods still lacked a few positions for the Horse Protector and wanted you all to fill them up. But now, it seems that you all won't have this chance. How, Ian, I didn't expect that after 800 years, your mouth is still so annoying. Heaven's equal Jindy said coldly. The position of the Horse Protector was somewhat related to Heaven's equal Jindy. Hearing the Jade Emperor mention this position again, Heaven's equal Jindy could not help but clench his fists. Heaven's equal, are you recalling the days when you were my subordinate and raised horses for me? Ha! Emperor Qing Xiaohao started to laugh wildly. Among the 4 great emperors, Xiaohao was the only relative of the Jade Emperor. Therefore, he was the most arrogant and domineering among the 4 great emperors. Except for the Jade Emperor, no one else was worthy of his respect. Even the other 3 great emperors were the same, let alone Heaven's equal Jindy. Back then, when Heaven's equal Jindy was just a spirit sword level sword wielder, he was once seduced by Fairy Xixia of the heavenly court. He fell in love with her and decided to join the heavenly court. The heavenly court expressed that they wanted to confer a high position on heaven's equal Jindy. Heaven's equal Jindy was quite looking forward to it. However, in the end, Heaven's equal Jindy became the horse protector of the heavenly court and was severely humiliated by Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in charge of the horse protector. In the end, he even raped Fairy Zixia in front of Heaven's equal Jindy. However, Fairy Zixia's heart was already tied to Heaven's equal Jindy. Therefore, she quickly committed suicide by exploding her real spirit. Heaven's equal Jindy also stole the Jade Emperor's heavenly horse and escaped from the heavenly court. That was how the future Heaven's equal Jindy came into being. From then on, Heaven's equal Jindy completely gave up on the idea of reconciling with the heavenly court. He wholeheartedly thought about how to destroy the heavenly court and fight to the death with the heavenly court. When he did not see Emperor Qing Shaohao, Heaven's equal Jindy could still maintain his rationality. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. He would not think about taking revenge on the heavenly court. However, when Emperor Qing Shaohao took the initiative to appear in front of Heaven's equal Jindy and mentioned this matter, Heaven's equal Jindy immediately fell into a state of rage. He picked up the Emperor's sword in his hand and rushed towards Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in the air. If Wu Ziqian and Ping Tianjindi had not reacted quickly and forcefully suppressed Heaven's equal Jindy, the final battle would have already begun. Heaven's equal, don't forget about the plan to cover the sky. Ping Tian whispered in Heaven's equal Jindy's ear. Only then did Heaven's equal Jindy suppress his anger and return to his army. What a pity! This brat did not fall for it. Emperor Qing Shaohao shook his head. If Heaven's equal Jindy had really attacked just now, he could have immediately joined forces with the other celestial emperors to severely injure Heaven's equal Jindy. That way, the following battle would be much simpler and easier. All right, Shaohao, you can leave first, Jade Emperor said to Emperor Qing. Hearing this, Emperor Qing retreated obediently. Jade Emperor continued, I will not speak to you anymore. I have already set up the inescapable snare formation around this area. You will definitely not be able to escape from here. You will definitely die. If you are willing to forsake the darkness and enter your celestial souls into the God's role, I can give you the title of Heavenly King. You will have the same status as pagoda-bearing Heavenly Kingly. Each of you will be able to lead 10,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. How about that? This is my sincerity. If you miss out on my sincerity this time, you will definitely not have another chance. What? You have already set up the inescapable snare formation? Wasn't this a formation that would take a day to set up? Did you already know about us? Yamada no Orochi said in horror. To tell you the truth, I had already set it up 2 days ago. I was just waiting for you fools to take the bait. Unfortunately, you're a little smarter than you were 800 years ago. You forced me to come out and meet you, Jade Emperor said with a cold smile. The 6 great sages were speechless. At the same time, they looked behind them with grateful eyes. There was Liu Ban and Guhan standing beside him. If these two had not stopped them in time, they would have been captured by the heavenly court. Then, they would really be dead meat. What a joke! What a joke! After a long silence, Ping Tian Jindy said with a sneer, Who is that pagoda-bearing Heavenly Kingly? He is not even a celestial sword tier. At most, he is a spiritual sword tier. If we are on the same level as him, wouldn't we be the biggest joke in the world? You're all destined to die. With the position of Heavenly King, you should kneel down and thank the heavens. How dare you speak so shamelessly? At the side, pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li cursed loudly, his face red. Ping Tian Jindy's every word was a slap to his face. Oh, I understand what you mean. The Jade Emperor waved his hand at pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li, indicating for him to shut up. Then he turned to Ping Tian Jindy and said, What position do you want? About that, Ping Tian Jindy rubbed his chin. After thinking for a while, he suddenly asked, I am very curious about one thing. What did you give Jatian back then, that he was willing to betray us? Why are you mentioning that person? Hearing Ping Tian Jinni mention Jatian Jindi's name, the Jade Emperor's face clearly showed a displeased expression. However, this displeasure quickly dissipated. After all, he was a dead person. The Jade Emperor paused for a while before replying. All right, there is no harm in telling you. I made up an official position for him out of thin air, calling him Great Sage Jatian. He will enjoy the same status as us 5 heavenly kings, but he will not have any actual position. It will be an extremely carefree position. I see. Jade Emperor, can you let us discuss this? The 6 great sages looked at each other, then asked. Go ahead. Because victory was already in his grasp, the Jade Emperor was relatively calm and tolerant. The 6 great sages immediately returned to the team and gathered with Lu Ban to discuss for a while. Then Wu Zetian took the initiative to stand up and say, We've already comprehended the strength of the inescapable net formation 800 years ago. We don't expect to be able to escape from it. However, if the 6 of us gather all our strength and fight to the death, it is not impossible to replace a few of you. For example, this most annoying Green the Arch. Wu Zetian's words scared Green the Arch Xiaohao so much that he could not help but take a step back. Although Xiaohao was very proud and did not take these 6 great sages seriously, he knew that if these 6 great sages wanted to replace a few of them with the belief that they would definitely die, even the Jade Emperor would not be able to save him. Thinking of this, Green the Arch began to feel afraid. So you want to discuss terms with me? What terms do you have? Jade Emperor asked with a frown. It's simple. We don't want much. You give us 6 celestial arch positions, and let us be on equal footing with you. We are willing to join the heavenly court and even send our true spirits into the investiture of the gods list. This way we will be a family. What do you think, Jade Emperor? Wu Zetian asked with a smile. That's impossible. Jade Emperor refused very decisively. The celestial arch position has long been fixed. It was written on the investiture of the gods list by ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones. How can I create 6 celestial arch positions for you? I can let you be like Jatian Jinni back then. I can give you the title of Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, Great Sage who pacifies heaven, and the other great sages the same status as my celestial arch. This is already the biggest concession I can make. Oof. Don't try to lie to us. Ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones haven't come to this world. The investiture of the gods list is completely in your hands. You can add as many positions as you want. You don't need the permission of those 4 big shots. Wu Zetian exposed the Jade Emperor's lie. Let's put our words here. Either you give us the position of Celestial Emperor, or we'll fight to the death. It won't be a problem to replace 2 of you. This, Jade Emperor hesitated. Clearly, it was as Wu Zetian said. It was not impossible to increase the positions of the 6 celestial thearchs. Actually, it was not a big deal to give these 6 great sages celestial arch positions. They were all positions in name. Under normal circumstances, if they were given, the Jade Emperor would not feel the pinch. However, to increase the position, he needed to rewrite the investiture of the gods list. Originally, the investiture of the gods list was decided by the 4 sages. Every official position on it was written by the sages themselves. Once he changed it, it was equivalent to offending the 4 sages. If the 4 sages did not come to this world, it would be fine. However, once they came to this world, he was afraid that he would have to bear the consequences. However, after hearing the declaration of the 6 great sages, Jade Emperor did not want his subordinates to be injured. Just as he was in a dilemma, an old voice broke the deadlock. Your Majesty, I have an idea. I don't know if Your Majesty is willing to give it a try. Lu Ban took the initiative to stand up and said, So it's you, Lu Ban. Fine. What good idea do you have? Tell me. Jade Emperor was no stranger to Lu Ban. After all, he was a guy who had fought with him for 800 years after the death of the great sages. Jade Emperor had long known Lu Ban as an opponent. Why do we old guys have to do it? Why don't we let the little guys practice? Lu Ban paused and then said, "We will each send 3 juniors below the celestial the arch level to compete. 2 out of 3 wins. If you win, we 6 great sages are willing to accept the position of great sage. At the same time, our true spirits will be on the investiture of the gods list. We will also completely surrender to the heavenly court and never rebel again. But if we win, the heavenly court will let the 6 great sages ascend to the throne. At the same time, these poor people will release the inescapable snare formation and give us back our freedom. How about that? Permission granted." The Jade Emperor's reply was very straightforward. Chapter 13:27. Chao Yu, are you sure your ability can cover the entire battlefield? In the Yuan-Ko Alliance army, Lu Ban cautiously asked a middle-aged man with an unshaven beard and a very serious expression. Replying to Lord Lu Ban, "My ability isn't to cover a large area, but to cover 2 different armies from both sides." Chao Yu said indifferently, "Just now, I passed by the troops of several great sages. I have already marked both armies. Unless the other side completely admits defeat, my ability will still be effective even if the 2 armies are at the ends of the earth. Master Lu Ban, you should be worried about whether our 3 generals can win all 3 battles." Chao Yu's eyes were filled with worry. If they can't win all 3 battles, not only will my ability be of no help, but it will also cause great harm to our side. Don't worry, the rest depends on Gahan and the others. Lu Ban nodded and looked at the 3 people at the front of the army. According to the agreement between the 6 great sages and the 5 heavenly emperors of the celestial court, other than the emperor's sword-level elites, each side could send out 3 elites to fight one-on-one battles. The results of the battles would determine the status of the 6 great sages in the celestial court after they surrendered. The 6 of you, I'll count to 3. Then, we'll throw the names of our generals into the air at the same time to show fairness. How about that? The Jade Emperor said with a smile. No problem. Odin nodded. The Jade Emperor counted to 3. Then, the 2 of them threw their empty hands into the air at the same time. On the Jade Emperor's side, countless immortal cranes appeared out of thin air and formed the 2 big words, Yang Jian, in the air. On Odin's side, the 2 words, Artoria, were formed by endless flashing golden lightning. With that, the opponents for the first battle were decided. Yang Jian of the Celestial Court versus Artoria of the Alliance Army. They actually sent out Artoria first. Seeing that the Alliance Army had sent out Artoria, the immortal hermit of the South Pole said with a frown. Clearly, the immortal hermit of the South Pole had planned for Artoria not to be the first contestant of the Alliance Army. According to the immortal hermit of the South Pole's plan, the Alliance Army would most likely send out a relatively weak contestant as a sacrifice in exchange for a chance of winning the next 2 battles. Therefore, the Celestial Court had placed Yang Jian, who was the weakest, first, and the 2 stronger contestants in the last 2 positions. This was so that they could snipe Artoria. The Celestial Court knew their old rival Artoria all too well. Over the course of 500 years, Artoria had led her team into conflicts with the Celestial Court tens of thousands of times, and Artoria had the upper hand in almost every conflict. For example, Yang Jian had fought with Artoria more than 200 times in the last 500 years, and Artoria had the upper hand in more than 90% of the battles. If not for the fact that the Celestial Court's reinforcements had arrived quickly, Artoria would have killed Yang Jian several times over. In fact, no one in the entire Celestial Court dared to guarantee that they could defeat Artoria. And the last general who was originally scheduled to fight only had a 75% chance of winning against Artoria, which wasn't a surefire chance. Looks like we're going to lose the first battle. Seeing Yang Jian standing opposite Artoria with a bitter smile on his face, the White Emperor Go Chun spoke in a manner that dealt a blow to their morale. If we lose, then we lose. They only have Artoria. Even the most arrogant Emperor Qing Xiaohao did not have any confidence in Yang Jian and said the same disheartening words. It's fine. They only have Artoria. Jade Emperor said calmly. Actually, this is good. Artoria has defeated the weakest Yang Jian, so the remaining two will definitely win. We will still be the ones to win in the end. Your Majesty Jade Emperor is right, the four celestial emperors said in unison. The battle began when even the celestial court was extremely pessimistic about the outcome. Just as the celestial court had guessed, Yang Jian was no match for Artoria at all. Less than 20 minutes into the battle, Yang Jian was completely suppressed by Artoria. In the past, Yang Jian's Mighty Ling's three-pointed, double-edged sword was no match for Artoria's Sword of the Lake. Every attack was predicted by Artoria. This made Yang Jian feel extremely sullen. Why does it feel like this Artoria's swordsmanship has improved by quite a bit? Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang said in disbelief when he saw Yang Jian's sullen state. This woman, I've never seen her so terrifying before. White Emperor Go Chen also couldn't help but exclaim. Very powerful. In terms of swordsmanship alone, I'm afraid none of the four of us are her match. Even Purple Emperor Bo Ikao, who usually spoke very little, spoke up. Looks like an expert has taught this Artoria before. Jade Emperor, who was sitting in the middle, said thoughtfully. Compared to before, her swordsmanship has already transcended her fixed thinking. If a person wants to rely on their own strength to break through their fixed thinking, it's something that requires tens of thousands of years of training. It's impossible to do it in a short period of time. Her swordsmanship has probably been taught by an expert swordsman. Could it be that the two humans Jindy taught her? This heaven-shrouding Jindy is indeed powerful. With just a few words, he made my swordsmanship improve to this level. Artoria thought to herself as she enjoyed the thrill of fighting to her heart's content. The truth was just as the Jade Emperor had guessed. Artoria didn't improve with her own abilities, but with the help of an outsider. Originally, Gahan had planned to personally teach Artoria, but after seeing her swordsmanship, Gahan realized that his swordsmanship and Artoria's were in two different worlds. Artoria's swordsmanship was the most orthodox of the Western swordsmanship. It focused on each and every move, using momentum to win. On the other hand, Guhan's swordsmanship was the exact opposite of Artoria's. Guhan's swordsmanship focused on nimbleness and variety. It was a traditional Eastern swordsmanship, with one move followed by 1,000 variations. To make an analogy, Gahan was like an F1 driver who drove a Ferrari, while Artoria was a special vehicle driver who drove a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. Both of their skills were at the peak of their respective fields, but it was impossible for them to complement each other. Gahan's F1 driving skills could not be applied to a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. On the other hand, I Ching gave Artoria a long list of suggestions for improvement after just one look at her swordsmanship. Moreover, these suggestions were all on the most important points. So Artoria's swordsmanship improved as if she was reborn, and she even began to touch the edge of the laws. As long as Artoria could master her swordsmanship, she would enter the realm of the laws and become a great sage in one fell swoop. Sword of Victory and Promised Victory. Under the impact of Artoria's final ultimate move, Yang Jian's armor was completely destroyed and his body was covered with bone-deep wounds. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yang Jian immediately fled back to the Celestial Court's army, and the first battle ended with Artoria's victory. Your Majesty, I had a bad start, and my skills are inferior. I am willing to accept punishment, Your Majesty. He was different from the rebellious Yang Jian in the real world, the one who did not care about his uncle, the Jade Emperor. In this dungeon world, Yang Jian was extremely respectful to the Jade Emperor and did not dare to show the slightest bit of neglect. The Celestial Court in this dungeon world was too powerful, so powerful that the Celestial Court did not lack a fighter like Yang Jian. The Jade Emperor did not mind using his nephew's life to declare his authority. It's fine. I see that Artoria has improved a lot, and it's only natural that you lose to her. Go and rest. The Jade Emperor nodded and did not make things difficult for his nephew. Your Majesty, who should we send out next? White Emperor Go Chan immediately asked impatiently. It doesn't matter who we send out. They will definitely lose the next 2 battles. Green Emperor Xiaohao said smugly, "Go invite the leader of the 8 immortals of the upper caves, pure young, true immortal Patriarch Lu, to come and fight." The Jade Emperor thought for a moment, then gave the order. Soon, a Taoist dressed in a bright red Taoist robe, with an orchid hairpin on his head and a crimson peachwood sword on his back, appeared in front of the Jade Emperor. He clasped his hands towards the Jade Emperor. "Your subject, Lu Dongbin, greets you, your majesty. I didn't want to trouble Patriarch Lu with today's matter, but this involves the dignity of the celestial court. Please, Patriarch Lu, teach these arrogant monsters a lesson." The Jade Emperor's expression was very kind, not at all like one would treat a subordinate, but like a close friend. This was very rare in the celestial court. However, this couldn't be helped, because Lu Dongbin's backing was very powerful. Lu Dongbin was one of the inner disciples of Taishang Laojun, and also the last disciple of Taishang Laojun. With the support of Taishang Laojun, Lu Dongbin's position in the celestial court was completely different. However, because Taishang Laojun did not come to this world, Lu Dongbin did not dare to be too presumptuous. He was very respectful to the Jade Emperor and was very considerate of all kinds of etiquette. The Jade Emperor was very satisfied with this. Since Lu Dongbin showed enough respect to him, he would return the favor. This also gave Lu Dongbin a special position in the celestial court. "I dare not disobey your majesty's order. I will kill that monster now and raise the prestige of the celestial court." As expected, Lu Dongbin gave the Jade Emperor face. When Lu Dongbin leisurely walked out of the celestial court's formation, the Yuan-Ko Alliance army also sent out their second opponent, Miss Liunian Ling, who had an extremely ugly expression on her face. Chapter 1328. Liunian Ling. The heavenly court's 5 celestial emperors were stunned when they saw Odin's name. They had never heard of this name before. Lunyan, Scarlet Emperor South Pole, immortal, Wang muttered to himself. "Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Could this woman be a descendant of the Lunyan family?" White Emperor Go, Chun voiced out his guess. All 5 celestial emperors fell silent. They recalled the battle 800 years ago when they annihilated the human forces. They recalled drifting goblets, Jiandi, who fought against the 5 of them by himself. They recalled his terrifying swordsmanship, and their even more terrifying ancestor, Lunyan. He was a terrifying person who killed 3 celestial emperors of the heavenly court. It can't be. We've already killed all the descendants of the Lunyan family. We've never heard of anyone from the Lunyan family's bloodline appearing in the past 800 years. Could this be a normal human who admired the Lunyan family's reputation and gave herself the surname Lunyan? Scarlet Emperor Go, Chun comforted himself after a moment of silence. That's right. That must be it. This Liunian Ling is definitely a fake. Ancestor Lu, you can easily kill this human. Azure Emperor Xiaohao suddenly roared, as if this could prove that Liunian Ling was a fake. Liunian Ling was very displeased. However, it was not because the celestial emperors doubted her, but because her heart was filled with the flames of jealousy. This Kahan just said that he liked her a few days ago. Now, he was completely with I Ching and was constantly lovey-dovey with her. It would be strange if Liunian Ling wasn't angry. Damn it, I'll never be jealous of an NPC. Liunian Ling warned herself, but the jealousy in her heart was still like a raging river. As a result, Ancestor Lu became the perfect target for Liunian Ling to vent her anger on. I'm Lu Dongbin, one of the upper cave 8 immortals. May I ask if this lady is a descendant of the Lunyan family? Before the battle began, Lu Dongbin announced his name in an elegant and proper manner, and then asked curiously. He really wanted to know if there were any descendants of the terrifying Lunyan family that had survived. Looks like your hands are also stained with the blood of this world's Lunyan family, aren't they? Liunian Ling glared at Lu Dongbin and retorted angrily. I did participate in drifting goblet Jiandi's attack, But I wasn't stained with drifting goblets Jindy's blood. He died by self-detonating his sword chi, and no one can touch drifting goblet's blood. I am Lu Shang, Jindy, and I also admire you greatly. I dare not be disrespectful. Lu Dongbin's tone was filled with respect. Oh, did you know how you died? Liu Ling did not answer Lu Dongbin's question, and instead retorted with a cold snort. Lu Dongbin's expression froze for a moment, and then he said stiffly, "Whether it's in the original world or in this world, I'm still alive and well. No one has the ability to kill me." Then I'll tell you. 327 years ago, you actually tried to sneak attack our Lun Yin family's 19th ancestor. In the end, our ancestor used the billion sword art to kill you on the peak of Mount Tai and turned you into minced meat. Liu Ling sneered. Lu Dongbin was even more dumbfounded, and his expression became even more furious. This young lady's words are interesting. If I, Lu Dongbin, had died 327 years ago, then who is Lu Dongbin now? Could it be that I, Lu Dongbin, have transmigrated back again? You don't need to care about that. In any case, you died 327 years ago. Liu Ling did not explain at all, and continued to say these strange words. In reality, Liu Ling was not lying. Lu Dongbin had indeed died 327 years ago. However, that was in another world. At that time, the 19th ancestor of the Lun Yin family had just come out to travel, and he was only at the spirit sword level. As a peak universe level, Yuan Ko, Lu Dongbin felt that he had a chance to sneak attack the Lun Yin family's ancestor. If it was a normal ancestor, this sneak attack would have won. Even the descendant of the Lun Yin family would not be able to close the gap between the two. However, the problem was that Lu Dongbin's sneak attack was the 19th ancestor of the Lun Yin family, the fourth and last ancestor of the Lun Yin family, Jindy. This ancestor was a genius and did not panic when facing Lu Dongbin's sneak attack. The two of them fought from the coast of the East Sea to the peak of Mount Tai. This was already an incredible thing. In the past 1,000 years of history, there were not many people who could fight with the universe-level Yuan Ko for so long as they were at the spirit sword level. As for defeating him, apart from Gahan, Lu Li, and I Ching, there was not a fourth person in the world who could do this. In the end, when they reached the peak of Mount Tai, the 19th ancestor of the Lun Yin family finally received support from a guest of the Lun Yin family. With the help of this guest, the 19th ancestor of the Lun Yin family successfully killed the famous universe-level Yuan Ko and the leader of the Eight Immortals, Lu Dongbin, on the peak of Mount Tai, establishing his unparalleled reputation. Of course, Lu Dongbin did not know what had happened in the real world, nor did he know that the real him was already dead. So, he only felt that Liu Ling's words were strange, like she was a madwoman. Enough with the nonsense. Watch my fire dragon sword. Lu Dongbin could not be bothered to talk to Liu Ling anymore. He formed a seal with both hands, and the fire dragon sword on his back flew out and attacked Liu Ling's soaring sky sword. Liu Ling patted her waist with her right hand, and her sword lady soaring sky sword flew into the sky. Just like the fire dragon sword, without a master to control it, it began to attack her opponent in the sky. This was purely the swordsmanship of both sides, the purest contest between two swordsmen. However, it did not take long for Liu Ling to be at a disadvantage. Lu Dongbin was originally a master swordsman in the world. When he was still traveling in the human world, he had defeated all the swordsmen in the world with his fire dragon sword. He could be called a sword saint. After Lu Dongbin ascended to become an immortal, apart from drinking and having fun in the heavenly court, his greatest joy was perfecting his swordsmanship. After a few thousand years, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship had already reached the point of perfection. He could be called the #1 swordsman in the heavenly court. Before Artoria's transformation, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship was on par with Artoria's. However, Lu Dongbin had just witnessed the entire battle between Artoria and Yangjian. It made Lu Dongbin somewhat sorrowfully realize that as Artoria completed a crucial transformation, he was no longer her opponent. Therefore, Lu Dongbin was very eager to defeat this opponent in front of him and vent his frustrations. Although Liu Yanling's swordsmanship talent was very high, it was not as terrifying as Lu Dongbin's. In addition, Lu Dongbin had immersed himself in swordsmanship for thousands of years. Liu Yanling's accumulation could not be compared to Lu Dongbin's. If not for Liu Yanling's unparalleled swordsmanship secret manuals from the Liu clan and the Liu clan's 20 years of meticulous nurturing, Liu Yanling would have long been defeated by Lu Dongbin. Since when did the humans have an expert of this level? Lu Dongbin was also shocked by Liu Yanling's swordsmanship. He was also very clear that the reason he could suppress Liu Yanling's swordsmanship was because he had accumulated enough accumulation. If the 20-year-old Lu Dongbin faced Liu Yanling's swordsmanship, he would have been killed in less than 10 seconds. This was a prodigy. In the future, she might even be a heaven-dominating Jiandi. At this thought, Lu Dongbin no longer held back. He used all his swordsmanship. Liu Yanling was at a complete disadvantage in an instant. The soaring sky sword was forced back by the fire dragon sword, and Lu Dongbin's figure kept closing in on Liu Yanling. At the same time, sparks of lightning appeared in Lu Dongbin's hands. This was Lu Dongbin's ultimate technique, the Nine-Yang True Thunder. Boom! A bolt of 9 solar thunder exploded beside Fleeting Time Ling. The bolt of 9 solar thunder had appeared out of nowhere, and it had come without any warning. Normally, lightning would strike down from the sky. No matter how fast it was, one would be able to detect it and dodge it. However, this bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder seemed to strike down from the sky. The moment it appeared out of nowhere, Liu Yanling reacted and began to retreat to the left. However, she was still struck in the thigh by this bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder. Liu Yanling let out a cry of pain. Her entire body swayed, and the soaring sky sword that was dancing in the air seemed to have lost its commander. It stopped moving and was caught by the fire dragon sword. The soaring sky sword fell to the ground. Good. As expected of old Lord Taishang's disciple. A single bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder is enough to make your opponent lose her soul. A wave of cheers came from the Heavenly Court's camp. Everyone was cheering for Lu Dongbin's Nine-Yang True Thunder. They felt that victory was in sight. Damn it. Is this Liu Yanling really the descendant of the Liu clan? Why is she so weak? She can't even take a single bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder. I could take 100 hits in a row without any problem. On the other side, the 6 great sages of the allied army had stiff expressions. They didn't expect that the mighty Liu Yanling would be so weak. She was beaten to this state by just a single bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder. If this goes on, they will lose without a doubt. What's going on? It shouldn't be. It's just a single bolt of Nine-Yang True Thunder. She is a great firmament golden immortal. How can she be so weak? Seeing that his Nine-Yang True Thunder had such a miraculous effect, even Lu Dongbin himself couldn't believe it. He couldn't understand what had happened. Damn it, little sister Ling is in danger. On the other side, I Ching, who was hiding beside Gahan and disguised as an ordinary human, whispered to Gahan, "This Nine-Yang True Thunder specializes in attacking the human soul. You all came to this dungeon in the form of a soul. This Nine-Yang True Thunder is too much of a restraint on you. Moreover, it will really harm your soul. Your soul might really be destroyed in this dungeon." Chapter 1329. Will Liu Yanling be alright? Gahan couldn't help but worry when he heard I Ching's words. At the same time, he held the extinguished immortal sword in his hand. The moment the situation changed, Gahan would immediately take action. So the people from the Liu family are so weak. Even a spirit sword wielder wouldn't be so badly injured after taking a Nine-Yang True Lightning. Lu Dongbin was both surprised and disdainful when he saw half of Liu Yanling's body turn black. He was speaking the truth. With this kind of injury, this descendant of the Liu family would die on the spot in at most 5 Nine-Yang True Lightning strikes. She was so weak that it was pitiful. Our Leonian family is not something you can insult." The heavily injured Leonian Ling raised her head. Her eyes were filled with anger. At the same time, countless rays of sword light shot out from the soaring sky, sword in her hand. In less than a second, the area around Leonian Ling was filled with densely packed rays of sword light. There were so many of them that even the light of the sun in the sky was overshadowed. It was as if a new sun had appeared beside Leonian Ling. "Oh my God! Just how many rays of sword light are there?" Seeing so many rays of sword light, the spectators on both sides tried to estimate how many there were. In the end, they only took a rough glance. The sky was filled with so many rays that their heads were about to explode. How could they calculate the exact number of rays of sword light? 10, 100,000, 1 million, 6 million. However, it wasn't that no one could calculate the number of rays of sword light. The Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal took a few rough glances and said with certainty, "There are about 6 million rays of sword light." 6 million. The Jade Emperor's expression turned ugly. There's no mistake now. This woman is indeed the descendant of the Leonian family. Only the 100 million sword technique of the Leonian family can produce 6 million rays of sword light at the immortal sword rank. The Jade Emperor could not help but recall the most thrilling battle that had taken place over 800 years ago, including the Jade Emperor himself. 5 heavenly emperors of the heavenly court had besieged Sword Emperor Liuta. In the end, Sword Emperor Liuta had fought against 5 alone. In the beginning of the battle, he had even gained the upper hand and almost killed the Jade Emperor several times. If it wasn't for the heavenly court's meticulous strategy to deplete the sword essence in Drifting Goblet Jindi's body, the outcome of the battle would have been uncertain. If Drifting Goblet's Jindi's sword essence had doubled, the entire battle would have changed. The Jade Emperor could still remember Drifting Goblet's terrifying sword light. When Drifting Goblet was at its peak, Jindi could release 40 million rays of sword light. The 40 million rays of sword light covered the entire Yanjing city. The Jade Emperor would occasionally think of that terrifying scene in his dreams. It became one of the few sources of nightmares for the Jade Emperor. So when the Jade Emperor saw Liuyan Ling's 6 million rays of sword light, he knew that Liuyan Ling's surname was not fake. She was the true descendant of the Liuyan clan. Lu Dongbin, who was supposed to win, was in big trouble this time. Lu Dongbin was at a complete disadvantage the moment Liuyan Ling revealed her billion sword art. Or rather, he was forced to flee. The rays of sword light chased after Lu Dongbin like mad dogs, not giving him a chance to stop. Lu Dongbin had tried to resist these sword lights, and the sword lights themselves weren't very strong. Lu Dongbin could destroy over 100 of them with a swing of his sword. But the problem was that there were simply too many of them, and they kept attacking Lu Dongbin from all directions. Lu Dongbin destroyed over 100 sword lights on one side, but over 1,000 sword lights on the other side stabbed into Lu Dongbin's body. Lu Dongbin cultivated the pure yang body tempering technique, a technique that focused on the physical body. Logically speaking, it should not be a problem for the rays of sword light to stab into his body. That was what Lu Dongbin thought in the beginning. He felt that his physical body was very strong, so he did not focus the rays of sword light on his body. When the rays of sword light pierced through his body and attacked his immortal force, Lu Dongbin realized to his horror that the rays of sword light could ignore his physical body's defenses to a certain extent. The 1,000 rays of sword light had caused him to lose about 0.5% of his immortal force. 5% did not sound like much, but it was only the effect of 1,000 rays of sword light. As long as 200,000 of the 6 million rays of sword light pierced into Lu Dongbin's body, Lu Dongbin's immortal force would be depleted, and he would become immortal. Lu Dongbin could neither block it nor defend against it. The only thing he could do now was to escape. The sword lights that followed behind him were like stray dogs, and Lu Dongbin had become an unlucky beggar who was being chased and bitten by the stray dogs. Lu Dongbin also tried to use the 9-yang True Thunder, which he had just seen miraculous effects, to deal with Liuyan Ling. If he could make Liu Ling eat a few more rays of Nine-Yang True Thunder, then he would be able to directly kill his opponent. However, Liu Ling had learned her lesson this time. She no longer stood still like before, but constantly moved at high speed in the air. This made Lu Dongbin completely at a loss. The Nine-Yang True Thunder was not an instantaneous skill. It required about 2 seconds to cast. 2 seconds was enough for Liu Ling to move several kilometers. Unless Lu Dongbin could predict Liu Ling's position 2 seconds later, the Nine-Yang True Thunder would not be able to hit her at all. This is bad. If this continues, Ancestor Lu will definitely lose. The Jade Emperor frowned deeply. Then, he said something to the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole nodded and disappeared from his throne. He only returned after 5 or 6 seconds. "Did you manage to borrow it?" the Jade Emperor asked anxiously. "Yes, I did." The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole opened his right hand. 9 small dragons were constantly circling on his palm, forming a large bell-like object. But Junior Brother said that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier won't last long against the 6 million rays of sword light. If Ancestor Lu doesn't have a way to break the enemy, then he will still lose. No matter. After all, Ancestor Lu is the last disciple of old Lord Taishan. He must have a trump card. The Jade Emperor nodded. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole sent the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier into the void. In the next second, the void around Lu Dongbin was broken, and the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier automatically emerged from the void. Shameless. Jade Emperor, you're shameless. Seeing the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole give a magic treasure to Lu Dongbin, the 6 great sages who were watching the battle immediately jumped out and made a ruckus. "Nonsense. I'm not that kind of person," the Jade Emperor said in an inviolable manner. "The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure, but he lent it to you a few days ago. Now, he's just returning it to him. How is this shameless? This shameless guy? The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is clearly Lord Tai's magic treasure. When did it become Ancestor Lu's?" Wu Ziqian, who was familiar with the heavenly court, cursed. "Oof. Lord Tai gave the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier to Ancestor Lu 100 years ago. So, is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure now?" The Jade Emperor said calmly. He looked at the 4 great emperors around him and gave him a thumbs up. As expected of the central Jade Emperor, not only was his magic power powerful, his skin was also so thick. Bah! Who doesn't know that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Lord Tai's natal magic treasure? There's no reason for a natal magic treasure to be given away. This is utter nonsense. The 6 great sages were even more dissatisfied. "The 6 of you, please be careful with your words and actions. Otherwise, I can take back my promise at any time and fight with you all." When the Jade Emperor heard the words of the 6 great sages, he glared at them and directly threatened to cancel the competition. This could be said to be the Achilles heel of the 6 great sages. They proposed a competition because they felt that they were no match for the Heavenly Court and did not want to start a war with the Heavenly Court. After being threatened by the Jade Emperor, as expected, they fell silent. In the end, it was Odin who asked helplessly, "May I ask, Jade Emperor, what other magic treasures did Ancestor Lu leave with you? Please tell us now, lest there be another dispute later." "None." The Jade Emperor shook his head. He had already acted shamelessly once. If he continued, even the Jade Emperor's thick skin wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Therefore, both sides tacitly agreed that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was Lu Dongbin's magic treasure. "Open for me." On the other side, the moment Lu Dongbin received the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier, he madly urged his magic power into it. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier expanded to the size of a house in an instant, sheltering Lu Dongbin's entire body within it. No matter how the sword lights attacked, the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier did not budge. Lu Dongbin could finally stop and rest for a while. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was the natal magic treasure of Lord Tai. If others wanted to use it, they had to destroy the mark left by the original owner in the magic treasure. However, Lord Tai had lent it to Lu Dongbin on his own initiative, so that the mark he left in the magic treasure could fully cooperate with Lu Dongbin. Only then could Lu Dongbin use the Nine-Dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier. Liu Ling manipulated her sword lights to constantly attack the Nine-Dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier. But after 100,000 sword lights, the 9 dragons on the Nine-Dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier let out shrill screams. But the Nine-Dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier itself remained as stable as Mount Tai, showing no signs of being broken. This broken barrier, it really is as annoying as the books say. Fleeting Ling mumbled in a hushed tone. He knew very well about the 9 dragons' divine fire shroud. In the real world, Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial had been killed by a patriarch of the fleeting family. Naturally, the patriarch would have a deep understanding of Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial's magic treasure. According to this ancestor's diary, the 9-dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier could be said to be one of the nemeses of the Billion Swords technique. The sword lights of the Billion Swords technique could not penetrate the defense of the 9-dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier, and the only way to break through it was to use sword lights. Back then, the ancestor had used nearly 2 million sword lights to break through the 9-dragon Heavenly Fire Barrier. Like Liu Ling, this ancestor was also an immortal sword wielder. Chapter 1330. About 2 million more. Lu Dongbin made the same judgment from within the 9 dragons' Heavenly Fire Shroud. Due to the limited surface area of the 9 dragons' Heavenly Fire Shroud, a maximum of 100,000 sword energies could strike the 9 dragons' Heavenly Fire Shroud in 1 second. This meant that Lu Dongbin had 20 seconds left. After 20 seconds, the entire 9 dragons' Heavenly Fire Shroud would shatter. 20 seconds is enough. Lu Dongbin gritted his teeth and took out a small golden ring from his spatial ring. It's the diamond chakram. I didn't expect old Lord Taishang to pass it on to his disciple. I knew Lu Dongbin wouldn't be so simple. We'll definitely win this time. The Jade Emperor, sitting high above the clouds, exclaimed happily when he saw Lu Dongbin take out the artifact. Seeing the diamond chakram was like seeing victory. That's right. Back then, even that brute monkey could only withstand one attack from the diamond chakram. No matter how strong Liu Ling is, she can't be stronger than that monkey. We'll definitely win this time. The other 4 celestial emperors echoed, as if victory was already in their grasp. Enlarge, enlarge, enlarge. On the other side, Lu Dongbin's face was flushed red from holding in the 9 dragons' Heavenly Fire Shroud. He was frantically channeling his magic power into the diamond chakram. The small diamond chakram was not to be underestimated. It was only the size of a bracelet, but it had already absorbed more than 50% of Lu Dongbin's immortal power in 3 seconds, and it was still not enough. Lu Dongbin was a peak Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, second only to the 5 Celestial Emperors. Yet, 50% of his magic power was still not enough for the diamond chakram. This showed how terrifying the diamond chakram was. It wasn't until the diamond chakram had absorbed 90% of Lu Dongbin's magic power that it began to expand rapidly. Finally, it grew to the size of a hula hoop and stopped growing. Phew! Lu Dongbin let out a long sigh of relief. He used the last bit of his magic power to aim the diamond chakram at Liu Ling and threw it. He collapsed to the ground, panting heavily as if he had been hollowed out after firing 10 shots in a row. We won. The diamond chakram had just been thrown, but the Scarlet Emperor's South Pole, Immortal Wang, exclaimed confidently, "Haha, this descendant of the Lunyan aristocrat clan is truly unlucky. After being smashed by the diamond chakram, she's definitely done for." Qing Emperor Xiaohao laughed maniacally. The other 3 emperors, including the Jade Emperor, nodded in agreement. Clearly, all 5 Celestial Emperors believed that Liu Ling would definitely lose. Why? Because this diamond chakram was simply too powerful. Do not underestimate this small bracelet-like diamond chakram. This was the personal magic treasure of Taishang Laojun. Legend has it that Taishang Laojun forged this magic treasure from Panga's fingernails. It was an innate magic treasure with boundless power. Any opponent who had yet to become a demi-saint, which was an emperor's sword, would die on the spot if they were hit by the diamond chakram. In the world, only experts like Goku and Yang Jian, who had trained their bodies to the holy ground level, could withstand the attack of the diamond chakram with their own bodies. However, they could only withstand it for a while. Even someone as strong as Goku fainted immediately after being hit by the diamond chakram. It took him 7 days and 7 nights before he woke up. From this, one could see how powerful this diamond chakram was. What was even more terrifying was that the diamond chakram was a magic treasure that could not be dodged. It was like a lock-on attack in games. As long as the user used their will to lock onto the opponent, the diamond chakram would definitely hit the opponent's head. There was no chance of a miss. Even the primordial Lord of Heaven and the Grand Master of Heaven, who were at the same level as Taishang Laojun, had suffered a little from this diamond chakram. They had been hit by Taishang Laojun. Of course, the diamond chakram did very little damage to these two beings, but greatly damaged their pride. Even the primordial Lord of Heaven and the Grand Master of Heaven could not dodge it. Naturally, Lian Yinling, who was an immortal sword-tier sword wielder, could not dodge it either. Its power was so strong that no one below the Emperor's sword could block it, and the attack had a 100% hit rate. There was no chance of a miss. Therefore, in the eyes of these 5 celestial emperors, Lian Yinling was already a dead person. She had no chance of escaping from the diamond chakram. The diamond chakram did not look fast in the air. Even a dragon-level Yuan Ko could see the diamond chakram flying in the air with his naked eye. It felt like it was only a few times the speed of sound. But in reality, the diamond chakram had traversed a distance of more than 10 kilometers in just 2 seconds. It appeared in front of Lian Yinling. Then, just as the Jade Emperor and the other celestial emperors had guessed, any dodging movement that Lian Yinling made was meaningless in front of the diamond chakram. The diamond chakram landed lightly on Lian Yinling's head. Then, Lian Yinling directly fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. The diamond chakram is terrifying indeed. Even the descendant of the Lionian clan can't resist it. Everyone, including the Celestial Court's 5 celestial emperors, gasped when they saw this. They were shocked by the diamond chakram's terrifying attack once again. But it looks like this Lian Yinling is not dead yet. The Lionian clan is really powerful. The Scarlet Emperor's South Pole, Immortal Hermit, could not help but exclaim when he saw that the sky was still full of sword light. However, they had stopped moving because they had lost their master. If Lian Yinling was dead, then the sword light would naturally disappear. But now that the sword light was still there, it meant that Lian Yinling was not dead. She had only been knocked unconscious by the diamond chakram. Ancestor Lu, quickly kill her. At that moment, Lu Dongbin suddenly heard the Azure Emperor Xiaohao's order. What? Lu Dongbin was stunned. She has already lost the ability to fight. We have already won. Why must we kill her? Are you stupid? Have you forgotten the Jade Emperor's orders? Not a single person from the Lionian clan is left alive. Xiaohao sneered. Lu Dongbin fell silent. Because 3 of the Heavenly Court's celestial emperors had died in Kenzu's hands, the hatred between the Heavenly Court and the Lionian clan was as deep as the ocean. After conquering Yinjing City 800 years ago, the Jade Emperor had personally led the Heavenly Court's army to hunt down the Lionian clan. He had only gotten his revenge after the remnants of the Lionian clan were completely annihilated. But no one expected the descendant of the Lionian clan to appear now. If the Jade Emperor did not take this opportunity to eliminate him, wouldn't he become a huge problem for the Heavenly Court when he grew to Drifting Goblet and Jimmy's level? Sigh. Lu Dongbin sighed. He was an immortal, after all. He was somewhat unwilling to take advantage of someone when they were down. But when he remembered that this was the Jade Emperor's order, he withdrew his benevolence and cast hand seals. Over 100 bolts of 9-yang true lightning formed near where Liunyun Ling had fallen. They were like divine spears of fire, continuously striking down on Liunyun Ling. When the lightning disappeared, there was nothing left where Liunyun Ling had fallen. All that was left was a char mark. You shameless villains! Seeing this scene, the 6 great sages came to a sudden realization and began to scold them angrily. What a joke! What a joke! The Jade Emperor laughed in the sky. We had an agreement earlier. Only when the challenger personally admits defeat will it count as defeat. Liunyun Ling didn't admit defeat at all. Why can't Ancestor Lu continue attacking? You? Miss Ling clearly fainted. How could she admit defeat? Heaven's equal Jindy said furiously. Is that so? But I clearly saw her blink a few times. She clearly didn't faint. Qing Emperor Xiaohao said with a sinister smile. He said he saw Liunyun Ling blink, but no one else saw it. There were no cameras here, so how could they tell if it was real or not? Even if Qing Emperor Xiaohao was farting, everyone had to admit it. Ancestor Lu, come back. The Jade Emperor didn't want to waste his breath on the 6 sages, so he directly said to Lu Dongbin. Lu Dongbin nodded and stood up from the ground. At the same time, he withdrew the 9-dragon divine fire shroud. Just as he was about to fly back to the heavenly court's camp, the millions of sword lights that had been motionless around him suddenly exploded again. Lu Dongbin didn't even have time to react before the countless sword lights pierced into his body one after another. Because Lu Dongbin's magic power had long been exhausted, Lu Dongbin no longer had any ability to resist these sword lights. After just a second, Lu Dongbin spat out a mouthful of blood. His body became extremely stiff, and he fell to the ground like a piece of cement. Then, a dimensional vortex appeared and began to absorb Lu Dongbin's body. One of the 8 immortals of the upper cave had died on the battlefield just like that. How could this be? The heavenly court's people immediately fell silent. They had just been cheering for victory, but never would they have imagined such a shocking reversal in the next second. Lu Dongbin, who had used a connate treasure like the diamond chakram, had actually died at his opponent's hands in the blink of an eye. No matter how they looked at it, his opponent should have been a dead man. Oomph. I already said that you would definitely die at the hands of the Liunyun clan. When the dimensional vortex disappeared, Liunyun Ling slowly walked out of the void and spat at where Lu Dongbin had fallen. Then, she looked up at the heavenly court. You shameless old turtles, I won this time. We won. Long live. Long live. After a moment of daze, the Yuan-Ko Alliance's camp instantly erupted in unparalleled cheers, thunderous cheers. In contrast, the heavenly court's immortals in the sky were as black as squid. They couldn't understand how Lu Dongbin had died just like that. Your Majesty, the Jade Emperor, we've already won 2 out of 3 rounds. You should fulfill your promise and make us celestial emperors of the heavenly court. The 6 great sages said joyfully to the Jade Emperor. What if I say no? The Jade Emperor's face was livid. At the same time, he secretly made a gesture to Emperor Qing, who was beside him. He wanted to tell Emperor Qing to prepare for war immediately. Once the Jade Emperor gave the order, these bandits would be killed immediately. Chapter 1331. Jade Emperor, are you trying to renege on your debt? Hearing what the Jade Emperor said, the 6 great sages suddenly began to clamor. That's right. No, your people were the ones who acted shamelessly first. If Liunyun Ling had not used some underhanded method, how could she have defeated Patriarch Lu? Qing Emperor Xiaohao said with a grimace. The 6 great sages were so angry that they fainted. They did not expect the people of the heavenly court to be so shameless. All right then, Qing Emperor, please tell us what underhanded method Miss Ling used. Tell us. Heaven's equal Jindy asked Qing Emperor Xiaohao. This. Qing Emperor was speechless. He could not think of what underhanded method Liunyun Ling had used to escape the gold chakram's attack. According to Qing Emperor's knowledge, There was no one below the Emperor's sword level who could avoid the gold chakram. Ridiculous. Qing Emperor, you don't know either. How dare you say such a thing? The Azure Emperor's reaction caused the allied army to roar with laughter. The Azure Emperor, Xiaohao, who cared about his reputation the most, immediately paled in anger. He said, "All right, I can't think of anything. Then please tell me how that bastard from the Lunyan family won." Aside from prehistoric desolate Ian experts, no one can dodge the attack of the Diamond Chakram, nor can anyone remain clear-headed under its attack. Because the gold chakram did not hit me, a figure suddenly walked out of the void. His expression was calm and elegant, and he appeared in the middle of the 11 primordial desolation realm experts. "Who are you?" Qing Emperor frowned when he saw the woman suddenly appear. He said unhappily, "This is a place for us adults to talk. Since when did you children have the right to interrupt?" "That's strange. Didn't you ask me how I defeated Lu Dongbin?" The woman smiled disdainfully and looked at Qing Emperor mockingly. "What?" The 5 heavenly emperors were stunned. Jade Emperor was the first to react. He asked coldly, "Who are you? What's your name?" "I am Liunian Ling." Liunian Ling replied calmly. "What? If you're Liunian Ling, then who was the person fighting with Ancestor Lu just now?" Liunian Ling's reply shocked the heavenly court side. They couldn't understand how Liunian Ling had turned into a completely different person in the blink of an eye. Only the Jade Emperor seemed to have understood something. His eyes sharpened. "Miss Ling, please explain to these careless people. Otherwise, they won't be able to figure out what's going on in their entire lives." Wu Zetian laughed. Liunian Ling nodded. Just as she was about to explain, the Jade Emperor waved his hand and rudely cut her off. "There's no need for you to explain. I already know what's going on." The Heavenly Court's people immediately looked at the Jade Emperor in confusion. The Jade Emperor sneered and said, "You guys really have good methods, good schemes. You actually let the main character hide in the void and let your sword lady pretend to be you to fight with Ancestor Lu. You guys are really vicious." Hearing the Jade Emperor's words, most of the Heavenly Court's Yuan Ko instantly understood what was going on. Because Liunian Ling was a complete stranger, no Yuan Ko in the Heavenly Court knew what Liunian Ling looked like. Therefore, Liunian Ling had sent her sword lady, Goddess Soaring Sky, to pretend to be Liunian Ling fighting Ancestor Lu. On the other hand, the real lingering fleeting time was hiding in the void, controlling the billion sword art to pretend that it was the Soaring Sky Goddess who was using it. Because they saw Goddess Soaring Sky use the billion swords technique, Lu Dongbin and the Heavenly Court's people naturally thought that Goddess Soaring Sky was Liunian Ling. When Lu Dongbin smashed Goddess Soaring Sky's head with the Diamond Chakram, the result of the battle was already decided. After losing his last trump card, Lu Dongbin was naturally killed by Liunian Ling's billion swords technique. But that's not right. If that Liunian Ling was the sword lady, then it's impossible that we didn't recognize her. Qing Emperor Xiaohao, who was sitting on the throne, suddenly shouted. This caused the others to be confused. Although the sword lady looked very similar to humans, they were fundamentally different. For example, the dimensional aura that constantly surrounded the sword lady was something that normal humans would never have. After fighting with the sword lady for so long, the Yuan Ko had already grasped a method to distinguish the sword lady from the sword bearer. If this Liunian Ling was the sword lady, then it was impossible that they didn't recognize her. My Liunian clan has countless methods. It's just a method to hide the dimensional aura. What's the big deal? Liunian Ling said coldly. Only then did the Jade Emperor remember that the Kanzu clan had indeed invented a method to hide the sword lady's dimensional aura. This method could only be used by the Liunian clan's billion swords technique. So after the Liunian clan was destroyed, this method no longer appeared in the world. These Yuan Ko naturally forgot about this. Adding on the fact that the Liunian clan's usual style of fighting was for the sword bearer to charge forward, Lu Dongbin didn't suspect the sword lady's identity at all. He thought that she was the real sword bearer. That was why he suffered such a huge loss and died in Liunian Ling's hands. Good, good, good. The Jade Emperor said good 3 times, then looked at Liu Ling. "We would like to ask you, what happened to the sword lady who died in your place?" "It's broken," Liu Ling said calmly. At this moment, the soaring sword lady's charred corpse was blown away by a gust of wind. All the black ash disappeared in an instant, revealing the soaring sword that had been broken into several pieces. The soaring sky sword was an immortal sword maiden. It was forcibly broken into several pieces by the diamond chakram and 9 yang true thunder. From this, one could see how terrifying the diamond chakram and 9 yang true thunder were. If Liu Ling had been the one to bear all this herself, the one to die would have been Liu Ling. How vicious! You actually let your own sword lady die in your place. I'm afraid that even my good-for-nothing younger brother can't compare to your viciousness. The Jade Emperor couldn't help but exclaim. If Sword Emperor Lu Cheng, who defended Yinjing City to the death, was as ruthless as you are, he wouldn't have died in our hands. Drifting Goblet Jindi was the strongest existence between Yuan Ko and the humans. If Drifting Goblet Jindi wanted to escape, he could definitely do so. However, in order to cover the escape of the humans in Yinjing City, Sword Emperor Lu Shou had actually sacrificed his own life. It could be said that he was extremely selfless. That was why the Jade Emperor praised Drifting Goblet. After being chased by you for 800 years, it's time for our Liu clan to learn to be more obedient. Liu Ling said coldly. It's just an immortal sword lady. Our Liu clan still has some emperor bloodline. We can just reactivate the worldly furnace and bring her back. It's not a big deal. Ha ha ha. Good. Very good. The Jade Emperor laughed. As for how sincere his laughter was, only the heavens knew. It looks like that woman from the Liu clan knows junior brother like the back of her hand. She also knew about the diamond chakram and purposely set up this trap to harm junior brother, said the South Pole Immortal Hermit. The South Pole Immortal Hermit was the same as Lu Dongbin. They were both inner disciples of old Lord Taishang. Furthermore, the South Pole Immortal Hermit was the chief disciple of old Lord Taishang, so he naturally had special feelings for Ancestor Lu. That's right. That woman must have known that the diamond chakram was in Ancestor Lu's hands. That's why she set up such a sinister trap and used her sword lady's life to cover for herself. Azure Emperor Xiaohao immediately agreed. However, there's something I don't understand. My junior brother has never shown the diamond chakram to outsiders. Apart from me, no one else knows that the diamond chakram is in junior brother's hands. How did Liu Ling know all this and set up a trap for junior brother? Thinking of this, the South Pole Immortal Hermit was puzzled. The South Pole Immortal Hermit had no idea that the real Lu Dongbin had already died hundreds of years ago. The function of the diamond chakram had already been left behind by the 19th generation ancestor who had killed him. At the same time, Liu Ling, who was familiar with the clan's history, deeply remembered it. As soon as Lu Dongbin appeared, he had nowhere to hide in front of Liu Ling. All his trump cards were exposed. Liu Ling immediately discussed with Gahan through telepathy for a few minutes. In the end, Gahan used the characteristics of the diamond chakram to set up a trap for Lu Dongbin. As for the soaring sky sword that was broken into several pieces, it was actually sacrificed. However, Gahan and Liu Ling did not feel bad about it. Don't forget that this was a dungeon. All the sword ladies were a string of data. The real soaring sky sword was still in the real world. Sacrificing the soaring sky sword was not a psychological burden for Gahan and Liu Ling. All right, now that all the facts are clear, it's time to announce our victory. The 6 great sages said happily. Jade Emperor, quickly add 6 emperor positions to the investiture of the gods. From now on, we will be a family. Nonsense. You are clearly acting shamelessly. How can a swordsman hide in the void and use a sword lady to deceive others? This battle doesn't count. You have lost. Qing Emperor Xiaohao said forcefully. The Jade Emperor, who was sitting in the middle, did not say a word. However, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals behind him began to move at the same time. The entire war was like a seamless war machine, constantly approaching Yuan Ko's allied army. Obviously, the Jade Emperor did not intend to fulfill his promise. Wait, wait. Seeing the heavenly court's army's actions, the six great sages seemed to be frightened. They immediately admitted defeat. How about this? This battle doesn't count. Let's continue with the third battle. The heavenly court ignored the words of the six great sages. Even if they won the third round, it would be a draw with one win and one loss in the end. This was meaningless to the heavenly court, so they were still crushing the coalition army step by step. The first battle doesn't count either. Orochi, who was panicking to the extreme, finally threw away his last bit of bottom line. The third battle. We will use the third battle as the final decision. Whoever wins the third battle will be the final winner. Dong! The advancing heavenly court army stopped in an instant. The Jade Emperor was a man who cared about his reputation. At the same time, he was afraid that he would really lose a few great emperors in the battle with the allied army. Now that the six great sages were so cowardly, he had to stop while he was ahead. He nodded calmly and said, "All right, this will be your punishment for acting shamelessly in the second battle. We will use the third battle to determine who is the winner." Chapter 1332. Your Majesty, who do you intend to send out for the third round? Azure Emperor Xiaohao asked the Jade Emperor curiously from his throne. Do you even need to ask? Other than that guy, who else can guarantee that they will win the next round? The Jade Emperor rolled his eyes at his younger brother. Of course. It's just that if we send that guy down, it might be another. Qing Emperor Xiao had a rare look of worry on his face. Shut up. Don't mention that name in front of me. The Jade Emperor glared at Xiaohao fiercely. Xiaohao trembled in fear. Only then did he realize that he had unknowingly violated the Jade Emperor's taboo. He hurriedly said, "Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I didn't mean to. All right, go find that woman and tell her what to do." I'm curious what kind of opponent these six great sages will send out. The remaining Liu Ban isn't even as strong as Liu Ling. I don't believe these guys will use Liu Ban as their final trump card. They might even have a second Liu Ling hidden. The final opponent of the allied forces was naturally our student Gahan. When the Jade Emperor and Odin threw out the names in their hands at the same time, Gahan walked out from the crowd and appeared in front of everyone in the heavenly court for the first time. What? It's a spirit sword rank sword wielder. Oh my god, they actually sent out a spirit sword rank sword wielder. Seeing Gahan appear in front of them, everyone in the heavenly court, including the 5 great emperors, was stunned. They never expected that the last person to appear in the allied forces would be a spirit sword rank sword wielder. Could it be that the Yuan Ko allied forces were so miserable that they couldn't even send out a third immortal sword rank sword wielder and had no choice but to find a spirit sword rank sword wielder to make up the numbers? It seems like these 6 guys have completely given up and are ready to accept the title of Great Sage. That's why they sent out a spirit sword rank sword wielder. They want to deliberately lose to us just to look good. Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang said coldly, as if he had already seen through Yuan Ko's plan. That's right. They actually sent out a spirit sword level sword wielder. It seems like they really don't want to fight anymore. White Emperor Go Chun said. He felt that this was the case. No, it's not that simple. On the other hand, the Jade Emperor's eyes were filled with suspicion. Since that person from the Liu family could disguise himself as the Sword Lady, why can't this guy disguise himself as a spirit sword rank cultivator? This guy is the same as you and that Liu Ling. They are humans that we have never heard of. I'm afraid they are in cahoots with each other. These 2 guys and other humans have probably been hiding in a place we have never been aware of to recuperate. Since these 2 dared to come out from a safe place where they were struggling at death's door, I'm afraid each of them has extraordinary strength. They came to deal with the heavenly court. This human must be hiding some powerful ability. This spirit sword level identity is just to make us lower our guard. The Jade Emperor analyzed. Although the Jade Emperor's analysis was far from reality, there was one thing that he was very accurate about. Gohan was indeed very strong. He was stronger than all the immortal level sword wielder. The Jade Emperor was not wrong about this. If your majesty says so, won't we still lose the third round? Hearing the Jade Emperor's words, the South Pole immortal hermit said worriedly, "It doesn't matter." The Jade Emperor waved his hand. "It's best if we win. If we lose, we can use this Gohan to kill that hidden danger. It's a good thing no matter what. But if we do that, won't we still lose to those 6 guys?" Gochin said, "Do you think there's any meaning in winning or losing?" The Jade Emperor snorted coldly. "What can these 3 small rounds decide? Didn't you see the strange movements of our Heavenly Court's army? Those 6 guys were so scared that they wet their pants. They even gave up on the 2 victories they had in their hands. From this, it can be seen that these 6 guys are all trash who are outwardly strong. If they know what's good for them, they will obediently be the great sage. If they don't know what's good for them, then they will all be destroyed. Your Majesty is wise," the other celestial emperors said in unison. "Oh, Jin." At the side, looking at the name of the third round that the Jade Emperor threw out, Gohan could not help but feel puzzled. He had never heard of an immortal called O General, but when this name appeared, a faint memory kept reverberating in Gohan's mind. It made Gohan think of an interesting woman. It really is her. When this O Jin revealed his true appearance, a bitter smile appeared on Gohan's lips. This guy called O Jin was indeed that woman who had disappeared thousands of chapters in a certain book. O Jin was called O Jin in the game. He was the sect master of the number 1 sword sect in the game, the Azure Wave Sword sect. He was also the biological daughter of the previous Jindi of Yuzhong City, Gujin Jindi. Before the appearance of the military governor, this O Jin had always been an influential figure in the game. It was until the appearance of the military governor and his repeated defeats of the Azure Wave Sword sect in all aspects that O Jin's reputation finally fell. It was only then that the reputation of the military governor fell. It was said that after losing to the Yaoguang Sword sect, led by Gohan in the sect war, O Jin rarely appeared in the game. It was said that he went to the real world to train himself. The Azure Wave Sword sect's reputation continued to decline. Although it was still the number 1 sword sect in the world, the Yaoguang Sword sect had already bitten the tail of the Azure Wave Sword sect under the halo of Emperor Qin. Moreover, it was said that in 10 days, the Yaoguang Sword sect would officially launch a sect war against the Azure Wave Sword sect. According to the estimation of the majority of the players, the Azure Wave Sword sect would most likely be defeated in this war. They would fall from the number 1 position and give way to the increasingly powerful Yaoguang Sword sect. Of course, these were things that Gohan had discovered by chance while browsing the forums. He was no longer interested in the game. However, Gohan had never imagined that he would actually meet O Jin here. Seems like this woman is the same as Toad, trapped in the instance dungeon and brainwashed. Seeing the calm and steady O Jin appear in front of him, as if he was a completely different person, Gohan thought to himself. However, what made Gohan even more curious was why the Heavenly Court would send this woman. Could it be that this woman's strength in the real world had already reached the level of an immortal sword tier sword wielder? No. Even if O Jin already had the strength of an immortal sword tier sword wielder, after the previous battle, the Heavenly Court should be able to understand that their strength was not inferior to Liuanian Ling's. If they wanted to obtain victory in the 3rd round, they would have to send out the strongest immortal sword tier sword wielder, and not a woman with average strength like O General in that great battle all those years ago. Gohan had personally fought with this O General, although the other party did have a decent sword technique. It was only decent. It did not even reach 1% of Liuanian Ling's, let alone Gohan's level. Even if this woman had the strength of an immortal sword tier sword wielder, so what? In the end, she would still be bullied by him. Just as Gohan was thinking about this, the Jade Emperor in the sky said leisurely, "Sword Immortal Yin Jin, if you want to protect your godfather's life, you'd better give it your all and defeat this human. Otherwise, you know the consequences." The Jade Emperor actually called O Sword Immortal Yin-Jin. This means that O-Jin already knows the truth about humans. She knows that the sword wielder is her true identity, and that the Jade Emperor used her godfather's life to force her to fight with me. Gohan looked at O-Jin's eyes, and found that other than coldness, there was also deep pain and helplessness, as well as a faint hint of apology. Seeing this apology, Gohan knew that he had guessed correctly. However, this was not what Gohan was most concerned about. What Gohan was most concerned about was the other party's title. It was actually Sword Immortal Yin-Jin. Could it be that the other party had inherited it in this dungeon? As it turned out, Gohan had guessed correctly once again. When Gohan and O-Jin had not exchanged blows for long, he had been forcefully suppressed by O-Jin. Yes, you haven't seen it. In a contest of sword techniques, Gohan had been suppressed by O-Jin. This is definitely not a sword technique that O-Jin should have. In history, only a few O-Jin have achieved such a powerful sword technique. As expected, the one I'm fighting now isn't the real O-Jin, but her father, Gu-Jin Jiandi. After exchanging a few dozen blows, Gohan had already guessed the truth of the matter. As the most addicted to the game and the most accomplished swordsman after Jatian Jiandi, Yin-Jin Jiandi was still happily playing the game until a month before his death. Therefore, the game had faithfully recorded the swordsmanship of Gu-Jin Jiandi when he was at his peak. Perhaps because O-Jin was Yin-Jin Jiandi's biological daughter, all the swordsmanship memories recorded by the system had been instilled into O-Jin's brain. Therefore, Gohan was not fighting O-Jin, but Yin-Jin Jiandi when he was at his peak. Thinking of this, Gohan's heart was suddenly filled with lofty sentiments. Under normal circumstances, he would definitely not have the chance to fight a powerful Emperor sword like Gu-Jin Jiandi. Now that such a rare opportunity had been presented to him, Gohan really wanted to know who was better in swordsmanship between him and Yin-Jin Jiandi when he was at his peak. Therefore, a sword technique battle that left all the onlookers gasping in amazement, a virtual confrontation that spanned 80 years, began on this hastily arranged battlefield. Chapter 1333. The battle between Gohan and O-Jin had reached its climax from the start. Although the two of them were competing purely in terms of swordsmanship and didn't use the power of the sword essence, it was this simple swordsmanship that caused the entire world to sink into a vast expanse of white darkness. People could only see the flashes of swords in the air, but couldn't see the specific situation. Humans really can't be underestimated. Their swordsmanship has actually reached this level. This is already close to the Tao. Seeing the battle between O-Jin and Gohan, even the Jade Emperor couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. These two humans are too terrifying. Neither of them can be left alive. Otherwise, they'll definitely become a threat to us in the future. Qing Emperor said with a livid expression. He felt a strong threat from these two. Once these two became Emperor Sword level sword bearers, perhaps two more heaven-covering Jiandi would be born. See, let these two humans kill each other first. If O-Jin wins, then we'll kill her with our own hands. If that Gohan wins, then we'll force those 6 cowards to kill him, the Jade Emperor said with a sinister smile. At this time, the swordsmanship competition between Gohan and O-Jin had already entered a late stage. Because they were facing a late-stage Emperor Sword Jiandi's swordsmanship, even Gohan was at a disadvantage against this kind of swordsmanship. Fortunately, this swordsmanship was forcefully imbued into O-Jin's brain, so it was naturally somewhat stiff. Otherwise, Gohan would have already lost. You've lost. The sword in O-Jin's hand finally broke through Gohan's heavy defenses and stabbed into Gohan's forehead. O-Jin only needed to use a bit of force to pierce into Gohan's brain. In fact, Yujin did the same. She forcefully thrust her sword forward, but what she didn't expect was that the space between Gohan's eyebrows was abnormally hard. Her immortal-ranked sword mistress was unable to pierce through Guhan's forehead and could only leave a faint bloody mark. "You're not a human." Ogin sheathed his sword and said in surprise. It was normal for Ojin to make such a guess. Unless it was an emperor sword wielder, no human could use their own body to resist the sharpness of a celestial sword lady. It was impossible. "Of course I'm human. It's just that my body is a little special," Guhan replied faintly. If it weren't for the fact that Guhan's body was the meteor Yuanko's body, Guhan's forehead would have been pierced and he would have died on the spot. "You've already lost in terms of swordsmanship. Admit defeat now." Ojin couldn't be bothered to waste any more words with Guhan. "I admit that I'm not as good as you in terms of swordsmanship, but I haven't lost yet. After all, I haven't even used my sword essence." Guhan smiled. The Chidian sword in his hand spat out sword chi. This was the first time the Chidian sword had spat out sword chi in this battle. This meant that Guhan had finally used his full strength. "Oomph. You've already lost to me in terms of swordsmanship. So what if you use your sword essence? Don't forget, I'm an immortal sword wielder, and you're just a mere spirit sword wielder. In terms of sword essence, you and I aren't on the same level. You'll lose without a doubt." Queen Eugen snorted coldly. "I see that you are the future of humanity, so I'm reminding you to take the initiative to admit defeat now. I don't want to see the last shred of hope of humanity die by my own hands." It seemed that although this Ojin worked for the heavenly court, his heart was still with humanity. He knew how to preserve a sliver of hope for humanity. "No need. Let's see who's the real deal." Guhan shrugged his shoulders. The Chidian sword that carried sword chi directly attacked Ojin. "You forced my hand." Ojin's expression was pained, but he still raised his sword and clashed with Guhan. Unlike the quiet duel of pure swordsmanship earlier, when both sides used their sword essences, their combat power had reached a level that could destroy the world. Countless sword chis shot out from the hands of these two top-notch swordsmen, fighting each other in the air. When those sword chis fell to the ground, they left terrifying sword marks that were more than 10 meters deep. From this, one could see how terrifying those sword chis were. Some sword chi landed on the heavenly court and the allied army. Some Yuan-ko couldn't dodge in time and were instantly killed by the sword chi. More than 10-dimensional vortexes appeared at the same time, bringing those unlucky bastards back to their own worlds. These two fellows, be careful of ordinary people. Heaven's equal Jindi smiled bitterly. The Emperor's sword in his hand shot out a shield, protecting the entire allied army. This was to prevent any unlucky bastard from dying under the aftermath of these two sword chi. Heavenly Court's Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wing also followed suit and protected his own celestial soldiers and generals. For a moment, these sharp sword chi collided with the two shields, causing waves of ripples, like the surface of a lake in heavy rain. Terrifying, this shield actually consumed almost 1% of my magic power. South Pole Immortal Wung let out a surprised exclamation. Just by resisting the aftermath of the opponent's sword chi, South Pole Immortal Wung, the desolate level Yuan-ko, had actually lost 1% of his magic power. This was a bit terrifying. This Guhan was only a spirit sword wielder. How could his sword chi be so terrifying? Legend of Chaos. The moment Guhan used this move, he seemed to transcend space-time and the void. He penetrated through the layers of sword chi laid out by Ojin and instantly appeared next to her. The blade lightly touched her body, and countless sword chi flew out from the surface of Ojin's body, blasting her away. Seeing Ojin being blasted away, Azure Emperor Xiaohao immediately said nervously, "Did Ojin lose?" "No, but it's not much different from losing. This kid has actually mastered the power of the rule." The Jade Emperor couldn't help but clench his fists. He actually felt some fear towards this kid called Guhan from the bottom of his heart. "What? Big brother, you said this kid has mastered the power of the rule." Xiaohao turned pale with fright. He even forgot to address his majesty. and directly called Jade Emperor Big Brother. Look at Ojin's body yourself. See if her body is shrouded in the power of the rule. Jade Emperor said in a deep voice. Only then did Xiaohao turn his attention to Ojin, who had been blasted away. Sure enough, he found that there was a very obvious power of the rule lingering around Ojin's body. This power of the rule was constantly affecting Ojin, causing Ojin to become somewhat dazed. Jade Emperor really had discerning eyes. He immediately saw that Gahan had mastered the power of the rule. This Legend of Chaos was the 5th move of the Chaos Sword technique, and it was also the most important move. It could make the sword wielder become legendary, and it could make the sword technique possess the power of the rule. This was equivalent to turning Guhan into a half-emperor level sword wielder. What kind of sword technique is this? It can actually make my sword technique uncontrollable. Actually, Gohan's move just now did not cause much damage to Ojin. Ojin immediately recovered to his battle-ready state. However, when Ojin picked up his celestial sword and prepared to continue fighting, he found that his sword mistress was no longer listening to his commands. He wanted to use the snowy plum seeking snow move, but when he actually used it, he actually forgot how to use half of it. As a result, the move became unbearably broken, and he could not block Gahan's next attack at all. He was directly hit by the chi sword in Gahan's hand. The shield on his body shook, and he lost more than 5% of his energy. What was even more frightening was that Ojin found that he could not use the 4 skills of his sword mistress. It was as if he had forgotten how to use these 4 skills. In the end, Ojin became a pitiful live target. He allowed Gahan to attack him, but he was unable to resist. This is the rule. This is the power of the rule. After this happened more than a dozen times, Ojin finally understood what was happening to his body. This Gahan had actually grasped the power of the rule. It was precisely because of the power of the rule that he had become a helpless puppet. No, ordinary power of the rule is just things like wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. But this rule can make my sword technique so messy that I can't use it at all. Could it be that this person possesses the power of the rule of the sword? Ojin crawled up from the ground in a sorry state. He finally understood. That's right. This is something only the power of the rule of the sword can do. Only the power of the rule of the sword can affect all the swords in the world, making them unable to display their true strength. This is truly a terrifying power of the rule. This guy is simply the nemesis of all sword bearers in the world. Ojin thought to himself, Ojin is already lost. On the throne, the Jade Emperor sighed deeply and said, I didn't expect it to be the power of the rule of the sword. No swordsman in the world can win against the power of the rule of the sword. This military governor has already won from the start. Indeed, it was just as the Jade Emperor had said. From the start, Gahan had already won. Who asked Gahan to grasp the power of the rule of the sword? This rule could affect all sword techniques in the world. Even Emperor Sword's sword mistresses were useless in front of the power of the rule of the sword. All the sword techniques they grasped would become broken, and all their skills would be unusable. This was extremely bad news for any swordsman in the world. As long as it was a swordsman, be it humans or Yuan Ko, none could be a match for Gahan. Chapter 1334. I admit defeat. After discovering that his personal shield had been broken, Ojin, who wasn't on the same side as the heavenly court, immediately announced his defeat. This also meant that the allied forces had won the 3rd battle. Your Majesty, the Jade Emperor, we won again. Please fulfill your promise. The 6 great sages shouted excitedly. The Jade Emperor, who was sitting on his throne, couldn't be bothered to talk to the 6 of them anymore. He just calmly said to Qing Emperor Xiaohao beside him, Do it. Yes, Your Majesty. Qing Emperor Xiaohao said excitedly. Then he waved the flag in his hand, and the heavenly court's army once again charged towards Yuan Ko's allied forces. Last time, they marched slowly, but this time, the heavenly court's army was directly charging towards Yuan Ko's side. Their momentum was incomparably ferocious. They had clearly received the order to attack, and this was an attack that couldn't be stopped. Jade Emperor, you despicable person, you went back on your word. Seeing this, the 6 great sages immediately said angrily, "Honesty is for people of the same level of strength. You guys aren't strong enough, so there's no need to talk about honesty when dealing with you." The Jade Emperor didn't even care about the veil covering his face and directly spoke the truth in his heart. "Fellow Taoists, we'll have to trouble everyone to get rid of these 6 evildoers this time. No problem. Slaying evil and protecting the Tao is the natural talent of us righteous people. These 6 evildoers have committed too many evil deeds and deserve to be punished by the heavenly court." The other 4 heavenly emperors immediately said, as if they were the righteous ones, and those untrustworthy fellows had nothing to do with them. "Kill!" The 5 celestial emperors of the heavenly court instantly tore through the void and appeared in front of the 6 great sages in the next second. The 11 of them had already started fighting before the heavenly court, and Yuanko's army had even started fighting. "Everyone, fight these 5 shameless people to the death." "Heaven's equal," Ginny shouted. The 6 great sages finally gave up all their unrealistic thoughts and fought with the 5 heavenly emperors. Not long after, the heavenly court's celestial soldiers and generals finally clashed with Yuanko's army. Faced with the powerful celestial soldiers and generals, Yuanko's army gave up on the idea of running away after learning that they had nowhere to run. Instead, they unleashed a burst of blood energy from their bones and clashed with the celestial soldiers like 2 black and white fists. Although the strength of the 5 celestial emperors of the heavenly court was far greater than that of the 6 great sages, this was, after all, a battle between the strong of the emperor realm. The outcome could not be determined in a short time. On the contrary, the outcome of the battle between the heavenly court and Yuanko's army on the ground was about to be determined in about 30 minutes after the battle. One side of the army was made up of elite soldiers and well-equipped generals. Moreover, their overall strength was far superior to the other side. Logically speaking, there was no suspense in the outcome. It should be the powerful heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. But in reality, it was the elite heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals who were defeated. This might sound unbelievable, but the reason was very simple. Yuanko's army had 2 extremely terrifying existences, Liu Ling and Gahan. Fleeting Time's 100 million swords technique was a peerless skill that could deal damage to a large area of effect. It was even more terrifying than Guhan in terms of area of effect attacks. No matter how strong the elite heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were, they would still have their mana depleted in an instant when the millions of sword rays in her hands swept across the area. Without magic power, the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were just ordinary humans. They were immediately attacked by Yuan Ko, who was glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey, and were instantly smashed into meat paste by his powerful physical attacks. Fleeting Time Lin's 100 million swords technique was like a bug in the game. 20 to 30,000 heavenly soldiers had died because of the 100 million swords technique. No matter how strong the heavenly soldiers' willpower was, they could not help but feel fear when they saw the terrifying 100 million swords technique. No matter how strong the heavenly soldiers' willpower was, they could not help but hesitate in their attacks. If Liu Ling was a supreme existence for group attacks, then Guhan was an invincible assassin in one-on-one fights. Guhan had no interest in the low-level heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, and his Chidian sword was only interested in the experts of the heavenly court who were at least at the nether level. For example, Mighty Miracle God, the tallest of the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. Just as he was excitedly swinging his axe to kill the Yuanko around him, Guhan rushed in front of Mighty Miracle God like a comet. Scram! In his haste, Mighty Miracle God didn't get a clear look at his opponent and thought that it was just an ordinary Yuanko. He instinctively swung his axe, wanting to send Guhan flying. In the end, there was a huge sound of weapons clashing, and Mighty Miracle God's axe was sent flying by Guhan. Only now did Mighty Miracle God realize that his opponent was the terrifying existence that had just defeated Jin. To be honest, Mighty Miracle God really wanted to escape, but if he did so, pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li would definitely come after him and punish him for fleeing in the face of battle. Thus, Mighty Miracle God planned to exchange a few blows with Guhan and escape after his body was injured. That way, even pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li wouldn't be able to find trouble with him. As for whether or not he could withstand Guhan's attacks, Mighty Miracle God was quite confident. Although he was only a nether tier Yuan Ko, Mighty Miracle God also cultivated his physical body, and the strength of his physical body wasn't much different from that of a universe tier Yuan Ko. According to Mighty Miracle God's conservative estimate, he could at least withstand more than 100 blows from Guhan. Unfortunately, while his thoughts were beautiful, reality was cruel. Mighty Miracle God could only withstand 3 blows from Guhan. In the first blow, Guhan attacked Mighty Miracle God's neck, causing him to instinctively lower his head. In the second blow, Guhan shaved off Mighty Miracle God's braid, turning him into a pitiful little bald man. In the third blow, Guhan lightly tapped a certain spot on Mighty Miracle God's scalp. After that, Guhan directly flew away, abandoning the Mighty Miracle God and leaving. What's the meaning of this? Is he letting me off because he thinks I'm cute? Guhan's departure baffled Mighty Miracle God. Just as he was feeling puzzled, he suddenly felt a huge suction force sucking him into the air. Who is it? Who's using the Wild Wind Immortal spell? Mighty Miracle God thought that someone was using the Wild Wind Immortal spell, but when he looked up, he was horrified to discover that a dimensional vortex had appeared above his head. And it was this dimensional vortex that was emitting such a huge suction force in an attempt to suck him in. Could it be that I've died? Mighty Miracle God moved his body in horror. When he saw the dimensional vortex appear, Mighty Miracle God instinctively believed that he was dead. However, reality proved that Mighty Miracle God was still fine. His body was neither painful nor itchy, and he could move freely. He didn't look dead at all. Although Mighty Miracle God wasn't dead, it was impossible for him to live in this world. The power of the dimensional vortex wasn't something Mighty Miracle God could resist. After struggling for a while, Mighty Miracle God was finally sucked back by the dimensional vortex. Until the moment Mighty Miracle God left, he still couldn't figure out if he was dead or alive. Qijian, oh Qijian, it's finally time to show your might. Seeing the Mighty Miracle God being sucked into the dimensional vortex, Guhan gently caressed Qijian's blade. Qijian's terrifying sword-mark contract, which could send Yuanko back to the dimensional vortex, was finally fully displayed at this moment. Without using the Qijian sword, even with Guhan's strength, it would take him 50 to 60 moves to kill a Nether Yuanko in more than a minute. And there were hundreds of Nether Yuanko in the heavenly courts. It would take 7 to 8 hours to finish them all off. By then, the Yuan-Ko alliance would have long collapsed. However, with the Qijian sword's ability, as long as Guhan could see the other party's dimensional node, he could send them back to the dimensional vortex within 3 moves. The entire process took less than 5 seconds. In a minute, Guhan eliminated 12 Nether Yuan-Ko. He was simply the most terrifying killing machine. What's going on? Why is it like this? Soon, all the great immortals in the heavenly courts discovered a frightening fact. The Nether and Meteor Yuan-Ko were dying quickly. Almost every 5 seconds, a dimensional vortex would appear and suck in the heavenly courts Nether Yuan-Ko and above. And this wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that these Yuan-Ko that were sucked in weren't dead, but alive. They could still scream and panic and struggle. They were clearly alive, but these living fellows were actually directly sucked in by the dimensional vortex. This completely shattered the common sense of all Yuan-Ko. In fact, it wasn't just the Heavenly Court's Yuan-Ko. Even the Yuan-Ko Alliance's Yuan-Ko Alliance stared dumbfoundedly at everything in front of them. They were also Yuan-Ko. If the dimensional vortex had the same effect on them, if that assassin flying crazily in the sky aimed his longsword at them, they would probably be the ones being sucked into the dimensional vortex. Everyone, don't panic. Brother Military Governor is our friend. He won't attack us. Liu Ban immediately shouted. With Brother Military Governor helping us take care of those troublesome Heaven Immortals and Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, we can be fearless. For our dead comrades, everyone kill. Victory will be ours. Everyone kill. Long live. Hearing Liu Ban's words of encouragement, the Yuan bandit army instantly exploded with a shocking momentum, and with a cry of victory, they launched a counterattack against these celestial soldiers and generals. Because of the loss of the Nether level and the Meteor level Yuan bandit army, which were the backbone of the army, the morale of the Heavenly Court's army began to decline rapidly. The situation began to turn, and they quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. On the other hand, Gohan's hunt continued. But at this time, all the Nether Yuan Ko had been sucked into the dimensional vortex. Gohan's target was the universe and Ian Yuan Ko, which are the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. Chapter 1335. Your Majesty, this is bad. On the battlefield of the 11 Desolation level Yuan Ko, the Heavenly Court had gained an absolute advantage. Under the leadership of the Jade Emperor, the Heavenly Court's 4 Celestial Emperors forced the 6 Great Sages to retreat, forcing the 6 Great Sages to band together to protect themselves. However, this was the result that the Heavenly Court wanted. As long as the opponents banded together, the Heavenly Court could get rid of them once and for all. Just as the battle was progressing according to the Jade Emperor's plan, Red Emperor South Pole, Immortal, Wang suddenly warned the Jade Emperor. What's wrong? The battle is going well. These 6 guys are much weaker than I thought. The Jade Emperor said proudly. At this time, because the 6 Great Sages had just been resurrected, their strength was extremely damaged. The battle situation was far simpler than the Jade Emperor had imagined. The Jade Emperor even felt that he could suppress the 5 Great Sages with his own strength. As such, the result of the battle was quite clear. The Heavenly Court would win, and the Yuan Ko Alliance army would lose. Just as the Jade Emperor was immersed in his great cause, South Pole Immortal Wang's warning seemed a little untimely. The Jade Emperor frowned when he heard it. Your Majesty, pagoda-bearing Heavenly King, Li just reported to me that our army is about to collapse. South Pole Immortal Wang said anxiously. What? The Jade Emperor panicked and was hit by Wu Zetian's dragon might. The protective immortal light on the surface of his body wavered. Sky Immortal, Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Our strength and numbers are far greater than those trash. How can our army be defeated? The Jade Emperor instinctively lowered his head after he finished speaking. This was the first time he observed the situation of his army since the battle began. However, the moment he saw it, his hair stood on end. At this moment, the originally aggressive Heavenly Court army no longer had their earth-shaking momentum. Instead, they were trembling like a group of sheep waiting to be slaughtered. The reason for this was that the Nether and Universe level Yuan Ko Alliance army were unscrupulously harvesting the lives of the ordinary soldiers of the Heavenly Court, seeing their comrades in arms being mowed down like grass. No matter how strict these soldiers and generals were in training and how fearless they were, they instinctively felt a strong sense of fear. Where are our Sky Immortals? Where are our perfected Golden Immortals? Where did they go? Jade Emperor roared angrily. In his hasty glance just now, he did not see any Celestial Immortal or Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal appear to stop the enemy. It was as if there were no Celestial Immortals or Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals on his side. No wonder the army of Heavenly Court, which had an absolute advantage, was on the verge of collapse. I also don't know. I also suddenly received Li Jing's report. The South Pole Immortal Wang said, Bastard, where was Li Jing? He was the pagoda-bearing Heavenly King Li of the Heavenly Court. Where was he now? Come out and block these damned Yuan Ko for me. The Jade Emperor said through gritted teeth. At the same time, his sharp eyes began to search for pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li amidst the heavenly court's army. But to his shock, he couldn't find any trace of him. This guy. The Jade Emperor clenched his teeth in exasperation, then took out the investiture of the gods and began to search for pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li's position through the true spirit of the investiture of the gods. In the end, he actually found pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li amidst a group of soldiers. But what the Jade Emperor never expected was that the mighty Ling heavenly king Li, who liked to wear dazzling armor, wore a crown that seemed to want to fly to the heavens, and constantly drag his exquisite pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li around, was now dressed like a soldier. He was hiding amongst a large group of soldiers, maintaining the exact same posture as them. No wonder the Jade Emperor couldn't find pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li. He never would have thought that pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li would be hiding amongst the soldiers. Li Jing, what are you doing? Come out and command the army. Otherwise, I'll destroy the true spirit in your investiture of the gods. Seeing this, the Jade Emperor could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He roared at Li Jing, who was hiding amongst the soldiers. Oh no, I knew I shouldn't have been so nosy as to report this. Hearing the Jade Emperor's order, not only did pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li not obediently come out and command the army, he even let out a ghostly cry of complaint. Then, he charged out of the army and started running away from the battlefield. This bastard, I'm going to kill him. Seeing pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li's actions, the Jade Emperor was so angry that he stomped his feet. He decided to leave the battlefield to the other 4 sky emperors and leave the battlefield himself. He raised his investiture of the gods, planning to directly destroy pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li's true spirit. But before the Jade Emperor could do anything, a figure appeared like a ghost behind the fleeing pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li. I'll fight you to the death. Seeing this, pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li finally stopped running. Instead, he took out his exquisite pagoda-bearing heavenly king and prepared to fight to the death against this ghost. Unfortunately, pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li had clearly overthought things. Before he could even use his exquisite pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li, he was sent flying by the opponent's longsword. Then, the longsword stabbed him a few times before he swaggered off. That's strange. Why did the military governor leave? The Jade Emperor immediately recognized this ghostly figure. It was the man who had just defeated O Jin, O General. Even the immortal sword tier O Jin was no match for this man. The sky immortal pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li was naturally no match for the military governor. Pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li was bound to lose. But what the Jade Emperor didn't understand was that the military governor could have killed pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li with just a few more strikes. Why did he stop after just a few strikes? Could it be that the two of them had made some sort of secret deal? Had the military governor deliberately let pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li go? The Jade Emperor's confusion didn't last long. In the next second, he understood why Gohan had left. A dimensional vortex quickly appeared beside pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li. Although pagoda-bearing heavenly king Li struggled with all his might, he couldn't escape the suction of the dimensional vortex. In the end, he screamed as he was sucked into the dimensional vortex, disappearing without a trace. This guy, he can actually open a dimensional vortex while we're still alive. The Jade Emperor exclaimed. Then, another expert hidden in the crowd of heavenly soldiers was revealed. This time, it was a Deluo Golden Immortal expert. Moreover, it was the leader of the Thunder Tribe, the famous Grand Preceptor Wenzhong. This was a guy that even the Jade Emperor didn't like. Although this Grand Preceptor Wenzhong was his subordinate, she had the backing of the sect leader of Tongtian. Normally, she would look down on the Jade Emperor. Although this Grand Preceptor Wenzhong obeyed the Jade Emperor's orders, that was all. Other times, Grand Preceptor Wenzhong didn't even care about the Jade Emperor. Although the Jade Emperor was very vexed about this, because of the sect leader of Tongtian, the Jade Emperor could only silently endure it. As long as this Grand Preceptor Wenzhong still obeyed his imperial edict, it was enough. This was the Jade Emperor's bottom line. However, this Grand Preceptor Wenzhong, who didn't even care about the Jade Emperor in the past, was now being chased by the military governor like a stray dog. This Grand Preceptor Wenzhong didn't even have the courage to fight back. He just kept running, deeply afraid that Gahan's sword would stab him. Unfortunately, such an escape was useless. In the end, Grand Preceptor Wenzhong was still caught by Gahan. After a minute of entanglement, Grand Preceptor Wenzhong's defense was finally broken by Gahan. His armpits were exposed, and then Gahan stabbed him with his sword. In this way, the Jade Emperor could only watch as a Deluo Golden Immortal expert was sent into the dimensional vortex by the military governor in just 1 minute. He didn't even have the strength to resist. Xiaohao, go kill that military governor. Judging from his voice, the Jade Emperor was about to go crazy. He finally understood why his army was defeated. When all the Celestial Immortals and Deluo Golden Immortals were hiding in the small army because they were afraid of the opponent's dimensional vortex and didn't dare to reveal their true identities, how could his army not be defeated? However, the Jade Emperor's mind was still very clear. The urgent matter at hand was to find someone to end this troublesome military governor. He had to kill him directly with the power of a celestial emperor. Even if he couldn't kill him in a short time, he had to entangle him so that his Deluo Golden Immortals could jump out and change the situation of the whole battlefield. If possible, the Jade Emperor actually wanted to personally kill this military governor. It was a pity that there were now 6 great sages here. If the Jade Emperor left, the remaining 4 celestial emperors who were responsible for the siege were likely to be seriously injured or killed by the opponents. This was absolutely unacceptable to the Jade Emperor. However, Xiaohao was 2 realms higher than this military governor. It shouldn't be a problem to deal with him. Yes, Xiaohao didn't hesitate. He immediately accepted the order and left. Remember, this guy's swordsmanship is very strange. You'd better not let his sword touch your body. Otherwise, you may end up like Wenzhong just now. The Jade Emperor warned him one last time. Go to hell. The Jade Emperor's warning was very important, but Qing Emperor Xiaohao didn't care about the military governor at all. Although the military governor's attack was indeed very strange, Qing Emperor Xiaohao was extremely confident. After all, he was 2 realms higher than his opponent. How could he be defeated by his opponent? He could completely crush his opponent with his powerful innate power of rules. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.